to go over tonight. So now is going to be public comment on our normal council meeting. I'm sorry.
From a procedural standpoint, we do need you to call the meeting to order because this is a separate meeting.
We are calling the meeting to order.
And then just for the record, to reflect that we do have present today Councilmember Charles, Councilmember Cantor, Councilmember Harris will be with us shortly, Vice Mayor Valinsky will be with us shortly. We have Village Manager Scott, Village Attorney Wood, and Mayor Birch.
And so my point is this: if you're here to talk about the last 3 items on the agenda in public comment, I would do it now because there's no telling whether we're ever going to get to those tonight. But at any rate, we are now open for public comment on tonight's council meeting. Oh, what do we have that first?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
And before that, Mayor, you have
Before that, we have to have,
Mr. Mayor, just
okay,
you have order of business
go ahead.
to see if there's any changes to the order of business.
Yes, go ahead, Neil.
We should wait for the other.
Yeah,
Just call them back in, so we're starting. Well, Jesse went that way, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Councilmember Harris, I'll find her.
so we have order of business. Were there any order of business?
I believe the manager, do you have any changes to the order of business?
Yes, I'd like to pull the grants update because and to defer that until the next council meeting. Thank you.
All right, I would like to pull 8B and C and D off the consent agenda. Which I guess we don't have to vote to do that. Any other changes to the order of business?
Which ones did you pull out of consent? B, C, and D.
B, C, and
Basically the consent
D.
agenda. You just pulled the consent agenda out.
Okay. No, I'm, just A is fine.
Oh, nice.
Go ahead,
So
Jesse.
you pulled 8C?
I pulled 8C. So I'm gonna pull 8B, C, and D.
No, he wants to, no, he wants to pull them out, and then we were gonna discuss about it.
So our presentations,
First item is 5A, Miami-Dade County Fire. The amended, you can.
you don't have to vote on pulling things off the consent agenda. Any council person can do that. That's in the rules of order.
I know you can, but I thought we had to approve it in the manager or something.
Right, to adopt now the new order of business, right,
As
as
amended.
amended. Now you're,
Sorry,
Move
motion?
move to approve the new order of the agenda as amended.
A second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
item 5A, Miami-Dade County Fire Rescue Annual Report presented by Chief Rayed Jadala.
You didn't do all those opposed, but since you're so rule or.
All right,
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of this great council, Madam Clerk, Mr. Manager, to all the appointed leaders here, and of course, to the residents of Miami Shores. My name is Ray Jadala, Fire Chief, Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, and I do have members of my team here. I know that we definitely have a busy schedule, so I'm gonna go through our presentation. This will be the 2023 Service Delivery Report for Miami Shores. So just some history on Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. We are amongst the top 10 fire departments in the country, 6th largest in regards to fire rescue services. We currently operate out of 72 fire stations, with one in Miami Shores located on Northeast 2nd and 95th. We have over 160 frontline units, including technical rescue, hazmat units, fireboats, helicopters. In regards to all hazards, we meet that criteria. Over 2,900 personnel for Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, with over 500 on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We responded to just under 300,000 calls last year. And just recently, Mr. Mayor, I know that you may have received an email from Madam Mayor, Mayor Cava, in regards to our ISO Classification 1. We are one of 123 fire departments out of 38,000 that have achieved the ISO Class 1 and accreditation. We expect, for our businesses to see some cost savings in regards to insurances beginning July 1st. Now, what those cost savings are, it's really contingent on the different carriers. So, a little bit about Miami Shores in regards to the number of calls and units and resources. So, excuse me, sorry. We have within 3.5 miles of our Miami Shores, we have 7 stations. That includes 7 rescues, 6 suppressions, and a battalion chief. So every day, within a few minutes, we have 46 firefighters that can respond to Miami Shores. Now, why is that important? So, the misconception of just one fire truck or one rescue truck at a fire for a residential home is actually a myth. Typically, it takes about 4 fire trucks and 2 medical rescues and 2 chiefs to mitigate an incident of that nature. A business actually brings in roughly 12 different fire trucks, rescue personnel, and command staff. So there are mandatory minimums in regards to firefighters on scene within a certain amount of timelines, and of course the redundancy for safety. So this is important for the residents of Miami Shores in regards to what they have available, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not just one fire station. It's 72 with over 500 on duty every day. So in regards to Miami Shores, we've been serving Miami Shores, we've seen an increase of over 1,000 calls since 2018. We've seen a population increase of over 1,000 people since 2018. Additionally, we've also seen a 10% increase in the call volume. Now, Miami Shores Fire Rescue had 1,242 incidents last year in 2023. So that is a 10% increase since 2018. Additionally, we do have a station that's being built a few miles away. This will also provide relief. Now, again, this is important because when the station at 2nd Avenue is depleted because they're at a long incident, an extrication, a structure fire, we move resources to ensure that there's coverage within Miami Shores. So as you can see here, we are planning to build Station 18 a few miles away. This will also, provide resources here to Miami Shores. Last year, we implemented the high water vehicles, obviously with the increase in flooding in South Florida. And last year, Miami-Dade Fire Rescue inspected 244 businesses in Miami Shores. We're not just about, fire rescue services. There's also the component of engaging with our residents. Last year, we participated in 9 community events for Miami Shores. Over 530 residents, specifically for Miami Shores, received fire and life safety education and resources. We initiated 2 different initiatives. The first one is our HELP program. It's a life safety awareness program for first aid, CPR, stroke recognition. This has taken off. We have roughly a 3-month wait We continue to add additional personnel to help train the various residents, community leaders, business personnel throughout Miami-Dade County. The second program is our SPLASH program, which is prevention in regards to drowning. You know, what's different with our program here is typically these programs last, or begin during the spring and end after the summer. With our program, we are 365 days a year. Last year alone, we actually trained over 1,000 kids how to swim. So, engaging with our residents, we welcome feedback. So specifically for medical calls, we send surveys out to the residents of Miami Shores. We typically receive approximately 20% of those surveys back. And as you can see here, we have a 99% satisfaction rate just for Miami Shores with a 4.93 out of 5 rating. And as you can see here, some of the actual comments from our residents from Miami Shores. These are specifically residents of Miami Shores. And, again, I know that there's a lot on the schedule, but as you can see here, the services, are second to none. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank you again for the invitation to provide, this year's or 2023's service delivery report, and to say thank you again to, all the council members and, to all the staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we ask a question? Thank you very much for coming out. I could say firsthand, over the years I've had to call you guys a couple times, and the response time is phenomenal.
Thank you.
I actually had an interaction with some of the first responders recently. I had a gentleman who crashed his mobility scooter in front of my house and busted his head, and you guys got there very, very fast. And I ended up having a conversation with Captain Anderson, who was making me aware of all the renovations going on at the station over there. And that is really, I ended up going over there. They were very nice. They gave me a wonderful tour of what was going on. But I'm so happy you guys are here because I really reached out because I wanted to just make sure that those guys are getting taken care of over there, that we're having, full service while those renovations are going on. Yeah, I just wanted to know if you can give us a little update on that as well.
Sure thing, Mr. Vice Mayor. So, Station 30 is part of our plan for resiliency and upkeep. Building a fire station is not cheap. It's, roughly $14 million for a station like that. So in this day and age, we're looking to contribute, I believe it's just under $1 million for renovation. And it includes also, upgrades of the windows, the roofs, installation, interior. We're also, that station is an older station, and we actually have a septic tank. We just recently tapped into the sewer line, so no more septic tank, which, causes problems. We work out of, or, obviously the men and women continue to work out of that station. We continue to take care of the men and women. We make sure that the comfort in regards to the forts that we provide, temporarily, because we don't want to vacate, this area. We're still looking at a few months. Obviously, we're at the mercy of vendors and contractors. And if anyone's had any renovations done to their homes, nothing's ever done within the timeline. But I could assure you that it's, all 2,930 members of Miami-Dade Fire Rescue are my brothers and sisters. And, making sure that they're taken care of is, a priority for me.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Item 5B, recap of 2024 legislative session presented by the Southern Group, lobbyists Kate Deloach, Nelson Diaz.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. My name is Nelson Diaz. I'm with the Southern Group, your lobbying firm, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and to introduce, or not introduce, but reintroduce my team and introduce a new member of our team that will be helping the village next session, which starts March of 2025. If you recall, during even-numbered years, the legislative session starts in January for 60 days. And in odd-numbered years, the legislative session starts in March. So a little bit of a difference. It may have something to do with elections being in even-numbered years. And so the next one starts in about 10 months. So, many of you have met Kate Deloe. She's been with the Southern Group and working for the village for a long time. And new to our team, somewhat new. Olivia was an intern for us a few years ago. She went off to get a little bit of private sector experience, and recently we brought her back. And so she'll be working with us to help the village next session. So I'm going to let Kate run through a lot of the policy issues that we worked on for the village. And if you have any questions, just kind of feel free to interject.
I should have worn my heels for this podium, guys. Well, thank you, as Nelson said, for the opportunity to represent you all. I did get with your staff after session to identify some different available grant programs that we might be able to use this year to fill some gaps of projects that are important. So I just put those together in a little review for you to take a look at. One is the Resilient Florida program. That is one that the village has done very well with in the past, and it was funded by the legislature this year at $150 million, so a pretty substantial funding level. That can be used for a variety of different projects that help mitigate flooding and combat sea level rise. In addition to the Resilient Florida pot, there is another $100 million pot that has been put aside for wastewater grant programs. And this one I highlight specifically because if you look at what they have historically used these for over the last few years, a lot of them are septic to sewer conversions or projects related to those septic to sewer conversions. So as those projects come up, that's going to be another pot of money that should have some funding in it once the governor gets and signs the budget. Other programs to mention are just the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant Program, the BRIC program. It is a federally funded program, but flows through the Division of Emergency Management like a lot of federal programs. And that could be used for anything from window replacement or hardening. I know that's something that has come up before with the library and archive protection, but that might be a grant project or a project that fits with that grant source. Perfect, thank you. The last two I just wanted to mention are the Division of Historical Resources small matching and special category grants. These could be used for country club renovations, particularly if there's an educational component that can get added in. That might be something that would fall into that pot. And then lastly is charter school capital outlay funding. So I put a little bit of information in there that could help with some of the capital needs. And then moving into policy, we just wanted to highlight a couple of bills that we know are going to have impacts for the village and give a few updates. The first one is obviously vacation rentals. I don't know about you, Nelson, but I haven't seen a lot of bills pass that narrowly. The final vote was 60 to 51, so it was not passed with strong support. And it was one of the few bills I've seen the vacation rental providers, companies, and the communities were on the same side opposing this bill. So that is one that you all provided us with a veto letter to the governor. He has not gotten that bill yet, but it is definitely one that he is hearing from a lot of different communities about the potential impacts because, as we know, you guys have an ordinance that works, and this bill could potentially undercut that.
And just so you know, once the governor, we'll let you know once the legislature sends the bill to the governor. On that day, the governor has 15 days to make a decision on the bill. Lately, he's been signing bills the same day, but I have a feeling that some of the more controversial bills are being held to deliver to him later.
Mm-hmm. And the next bill we wanted to highlight was the Affordable Housing Bill. This was the continuation of the Live Local Act from last year. We've spoken with the mayor about some issues that we may need to tweak to try and address some specific areas in the village, but this was definitely a leadership-driven bill, and it stayed pretty clean throughout the process. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity to make changes to that bill. That bill did just go to the governor today, so he has 15 days to act on that. Another bill we wanted to highlight was HB 473, and that's the cybersecurity incident liability bill that we spoke about. It has not been sent to the governor yet, but it would reduce liability for local governments who implement, adopt, and comply with cybersecurity training, standards, and incident notification protocols. And so the question is, what do we need to do to get that increased liability? And there are a couple of different options. Some municipalities or counties, depending on their size, have a CIO, a technology officer who will implement those protocols. Outside of that, there's also several different companies, and I've got a few that I can refer you to that I've done a little bit of research, but can contract to do this work and come in and create the protocols and the processes that meet these standards. And once that is done, you all would be protected under that increased cybersecurity liability. Expedited approval of residential building permits was another one we spoke about. This is another one like the vacation rentals that is not the best version of the bill we could have hoped for. There were certainly versions that were worse. I think one of the earlier versions gave 3 days to approve building permits. So we were able to walk it back a little bit, but this is going to be one that is going to be a challenge for local governments, and we'll certainly keep you posted over the summer as other communities start to grapple with how they're going to implement these restrictions as they come into place. And the last one we wanted to highlight was local government actions. This was presented, the governor just signed this one, right, today? Speaking of getting them and signing them quickly. And this is one that provides that local governments must complete that business impact statement prior to adopting or implementing a comprehensive plan amendment or a land development regulation. And one of the questions that we got was what needs to be in that statement? So I just this afternoon was able to send to Mr. Scott so that he can forward it on to you, the statutory requirements to meet those, but the statute was supposed to be drafted in a way that it shouldn't require, outside folks to put it together. It should be relatively able to be done in-house. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions. We know you guys have a packed agenda, so we're available for questions now or at your leisure.
Thank you.
I would just,
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
I would just like to say that it seems to me that a lot of municipality infringing legislation seems to be the trend coming down from the state right now. And as our representative in that arena, I would just appreciate even as soon as things begin to materialize, whether it's going to become a bill or whether I would like, if possible, to be informed as soon as so that we can discuss and figure out what our best course of action in playing our role as a small village is into preventing where we can and doing the steps necessary to inform our citizenry as well as instructing or working with you guys rather in figuring out what the best solutions for those things are. So just like to say that.
So
and
this
thank
year,
you.
being an election year, bills can't get filed until after November, once
Okay.
elections are officially certified.
Right.
Usually they open it up around mid-December or so.
Okay.
Bills will start to get filed, and it'll take a little bit of time for them to start coming out, usually early January-ish, maybe mid-January. And at that point, we'll start sending reports of bills that have been filed that are relevant to the city, to municipalities.
And
So
we'll
you
make
should-
sure we include anything on preemptions.
Yeah, you gotta wonder, at what point do they run out of preemptions? Like, just, because it's been several years of hard preemptions coming down. But
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Presentation on capital improvement projects. This item is brought forth by the Public Works Director through the Village Manager.
Mayor and Council, introducing Chris Miranda, who you know very well, and Frank Ruiz, the assistant. It's so critical that we decided that this is something that we needed to bring forward. It gives you a feel for exactly how much is going on in the village, especially in the Public Works Department. It helps you to understand all the different things that are being done their varying stages, and also in the different communities and different areas within our village. There's going to be east, west, north, and south, and you'll see exactly what's going on. It's a full plate, and I thank them for everything they do. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Manager, Clerk, and Attorney. Chris Miranda, Miami Shores Public Works Director. And today I'm going to be presenting the CIP, or Capital Improvement Plan, that the village has in place. So there's a difference. And what is the difference between a capital improvement plan and a capital improvement project? We're going to discuss those and what the steps are to develop a CIP project. And we're going to give you a presentation on our current CIP projects, which we've put up a map here, but you're going to see it in the presentation also. So what is a CIP? A CIP, Capital Improvement Plan, is a 5-year plan which covers, over 5 years, it covers 1 budgetary years with 4 projected years or forecast years. It's a long-range funding plan that allows us to acquire, construct, or rehab major facilities or assets that the village owns. It also evolves and changes yearly. This plan, as we've seen in our budget, the budget numbers change from year to year because the plan is evolving. The directors from all the departments get together and we add, or we may subtract projects from our CIP list from year to year. So, a CIP project. Well, a CIP project is any new construction or renovation which has a value of $5,000 or more and has a life expectancy of over 3 years. And why do we have CIP projects? Well, they improve the quality of life for the residents. They bring in new assets. They upgrade our existing assets. And it allows us to expand or modernize the village infrastructure, and it controls and manages our expenditures within our budget. The 5 steps to our building, how to build a CIP project, we have the planning, the funding, the procurement, the design, and the construction. And I'm going to go over each one. Planning. This is the timeline. It's a tentative schedule that we arrive to every year, and it's basically the same. And we go through with the budgeting department and the directors. As you heard earlier today, I do sit on the budget committee, so I am not only as a director involved in this, but also in the budget committee, reviewing everything that goes in, and all the information is given to me from the various departments. The funding side of it. We have funding that comes from either the annual approved budget. We could receive funding from bonds, GO bonds or revenue bonds. We have a number of different grants in play right now within our CIP. We do have federal grants. We have a grant with FEMA right now, and we have a number of local and state grants. The procurement side. Procurement side is handled by Ms. Donna Reardon, but we work very closely. And there is a 9-step procurement process that we go through. We have the planning stage, the solicitation, the vendor selection, the recommendation to award. Once the vendor has been selected, then we enter into a contract agreement. Next page. And then we go into the design and construction of the projects. Go to the next one. We have some very creative individuals in our department. So these are the projects that we currently have in play. That what you see there in the number 2, those are 36 locations where we are upgrading the sidewalk connectors between the streets and the sidewalks. We have the Bayfront Park seawall, 93rd Street pump stations. All of these that you see in yellow are stormwater projects. The Shores Estate septic to sewer, the Brockway Memorial Library east wing and the flat roof, the 95th Street buffer wall. We are installing generators at all our facilities. And we have the Little River adaptation area that we have entered into an agreement with the county to do. So our annual CIP projects, yearly, we run a sidewalk improvement project and the village-wide traffic study provided us with the speed tables that we install throughout the village. And then we have the master plans that we're working on. We have 6 master plans in play at the moment. The septic to sewer, the stormwater, the parks master plan, the transportation smart plan with the TPO, the golf course master plan, and our public works site best use practices, or best use plan, excuse me. These projects are all in design currently, and Frank and I manage these designs with the A&E firms that are providing us these designs. Bayfront Park, Seawall, 104th Street has 2 separate grant-funded projects. We have the our fuel tank replacement out at Public Works, Biscayne Boulevard, the beautification project. The Flagler Trail Greenway is an FDOT project. Northeast 8th Avenue Drainage Project is a FDEP project. Stormwater for Shores Estates, we're still waiting on the FEMA to come back to us with that one. We do have 2 spot drainage projects that we are working on, some smaller projects. And the Northeast 6th Avenue pedestrian promenade was part of the multimodal project, and that is also a FDOT project, grant-funded project. The construction projects in progress are the 95th Street buffer wall. We have, the contractor has been selected, and we're in the process right now of doing the preliminary investigation to determine where the easements need to be for that wall to go back in the right place. We have the ADA sidewalk ramps improvements. We are installing 2 marquees. We're replacing the marquee sign on 96th Street. It's been ordered. We anticipate having the new one in place within the next 4 to 6 weeks. We have the 96th Street roadway project, which was on hold for it's going on a year now, but we've managed to get that project back in play. Village Hall interior renovations, I hope to have bathrooms for you guys by the next council meeting. The Brockway, additional bathrooms, correct. The Brockway Memorial Library Saint Al wing is still in construction, and we always have sidewalk replacements throughout the village. And we are installing speed tables throughout the village. This is a list of the completed projects. I can go Brockway Memorial Library, the ADA ramp, the police station window replacement, the roof replacement at the field house. It got a brand new roof completely. The community center, we replaced the carpet. We did purchase a new grapple truck and a new Vector truck, thank you, manager, which helps us with our NPDES requirements of maintaining our stormwater infrastructure clean. And that's my presentation to you guys tonight. Thank you.
Desmond?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I think the new format is that I do an update, and then there's a manager's thing at the end? Or do we just want to do it in one shot?
The new rules, no, just do as the procedure is, unless they waive it.
Okay. So the new procedure is that there is a manager's update at the front, and then there's a manager's report at the end. Right, so.
Okay.
I wanted to say something.
You're about to say what, Mayor?
Do what you want to. Let's go ahead.
I just wanted to say through the chair that I really appreciate this presentation, because sometimes it seems like we're getting nothing done and nothing's been accomplished. And so as I see these many projects, I'm like, there's nothing else to prioritize. You got your hands full for the next couple of years, you know, because we really need to focus and get something finished. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Well, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Miami Shores Village Citizens Academy, where last night we had the second night of 8-night series, and want to appreciate. I think we have done the village manager's office, village attorney, village clerk on the first night, and then last night we did the library and IT. And to be very honest with you, I thought that last night was going to be a very boring night with library and IT. I couldn't be more wrong. It was very entertaining, and I want to thank the residents who have shown up and have shown interest in just wanting to learn a little bit more about what it is that we do every day, and to also thank staff for just excellent presentations that they have made. There's been good attendance. There's been positive response. I want to thank Vice Mayor for buying the shirts and the other things that you've bought for the Academy. And I'm just real pleased that we have been able to go along with this, and the interest that has been shown by our village in the process. And I want to thank everyone on that. Angie and Chris represented the village and gave the committee and the committee, meaning the CITT committee, Citizen in Transportation Trust, gave a presentation to that board in the big Miami-Dade County chambers. I know it was a little daunting, but it was great. The CITT have chosen different municipalities to give their presentations, and the fact that what we've been doing with the CITT funds, they thought it necessary to invite us down there to do that was great on their part, and I want to thank them for speaking about the circulate and the overall distribution of funds. I'll say that for a little bit. Wanted to give you an update as well as to the RFQs, requisition for quotes and for purchases that we have that's out there now. The best use of the Public Works property is out there, is due back on May 31st. The Shores Estate septic to sewer, the pre-bid meeting was held last week. I'm talking about the construction piece. Was held last week and due back on May 24th. The Stormwater Master Plan is due back on June 5th. And on the way, the septic to sewer master plan is being awarded to Kimley Horn, and we're meeting with the county next week. The Parks Master Plan, we're in the cone of silence, but the Parks Master Plan was, they had their initial meeting, and out of that, the committee asked them to come back with oral presentations, so we should be able to finalize that very soon, and I wanted to give you an update on that, on those two. It is Public Service Recognition Week. I want to thank staff for everything they've been doing, whether it's Green Day, whether it's the wonderful events that have been put on down at the country club, and overall just for everything they do in recognizing them for their efforts in public services. I wanted to also, at the last planning and zoning meeting there, the planning and zoning board requested that the council, I'm trying to choose the words that they use to give, let me paraphrase it, to give the manager not the okay, but to prompt the manager to get going with planning and zoning issues by having necessary resources. I've made it one of the things that I do. One of the things, the way I operate as a manager, is that I will never ever advise anyone of anything that I'm doing prior to advising this board. And so many of you knew that even though that vote was taken at the Planning and Zoning board, God bless you, long ago, I'd apprised you that I was looking into resources to move the issues that we have with our planning and zoning board forward. And I know that at that time, maybe a week before that vote was taken, I'd already solidified things to bring a new consultant in here. But in this public forum, I want to remind you that we'll be bringing in the Corradina Group, and they will be handling all our efforts going forward. The Corradina Group will be looking at the things, I got a consensus on this board at the end of a meeting, of looking at more than one thing at the same time. There is the R district, and there is the codes that have to be written, and the Corradina Group has the bandwidth to do that. So to advise you that CGA will not undertake those efforts any longer, that it will be the Corradina Group. I've already spoken with Joseph Corradino, and he has set aside a day. Lisa will be calling each of you individually, where he will meet with you individually just to discuss these everything surrounding our comp plan, and all the other planning and zoning issues. And we'll set up some time for that. That doesn't preclude, or it doesn't say that we won't have a meeting with everyone present, but he'll have a one-on-one meeting with you all before. And I know that there's some elements that are still lagging behind, those 10 or so elements to complete the comp plan. The CGA is still responsible because we have given them a PO to finish this, and so they still have a responsibility to finish that. So you may find that we have 2 consulting groups in here. CGA is just moving forward into what they've already been obligated to do, and for the heavy lifting to be done by the Corradina Group. So I just wanted to advise you in public, because I've done it individually, that is happening. I had on my agenda a few weeks ago to speak about the fine grant. I have fielded many questions. I've heard many comments out there about what it is or how we're handling the fine grant. I've also heard that I've taken money from the fine grant. I'm here to tell you that the village has not accepted 1 dime, 1 cent from the people at fined. The village has not, we have not invoiced fined for 1 cent of anything. I have Lisa Keeley, who's my assistant over there, and I think just for the record, because since we operate in transparency, I have asked Lisa, who is our grants manager, to do a timeline of find, even before I got here. And I'm going to be passing that out to this council, and I even think it would be a good thing to put it on the website, so that we are quite clear. That we are quite clear that I have not accepted a single cent from the folks at Find. We, Ms. Keeley will tell you that the last time we engaged with them, we ended up going to, and both Ms. Keeley and Mr. Miranda were there with the fine board, just because when you're already on a course to do something, and we were told by the council that we should apply for this grant, and we spoke about it. In Chris' own words, Chris thought, man, why don't you just throw me out of this place right now? Because there's no way we thought we were going to get a grant. But I guess the thing is that we pay, each of us individually here in this county, pay dollars into find on our tax bill. And so I think they found it, maybe they just had an excess of money or something. And so much to our surprise, they awarded us a grant. We executed the grant, but we have not obligated the village to take those funds. But Ms. Keeley will give you a timeline, Mr. Mayor, if you'll allow us to, just to go through the different dates and times so we're aware. If it is that,
We may have that as an agenda item already, if we can wait till we get to that.
respectfully, Mayor, why I'm saying that is that I had planned on speaking about this before, and I think it's necessary for me to speak on this because I've heard the comments outside, I've gotten the calls as it pertains to that, and I've heard of the calls that have been made that have alleged that dollars are being taken by Esmond Scott and his administration, and that it couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, why I feel compelled to speak about it is that I had it on my agenda to speak about, and 2 of my staff were advised to take it off of the agenda. Had they not been so advised, it would have been an item for me to speak on. But given the fact that it has taken on a life of its own, I feel it only necessary to make sure that my administration is represented in this conversation. That's the reason why, sir. So I don't know if Ms. Keeley should give that presentation.
I don't
If
think
not,
that's necessary.
I'd love to pass it out.
I don't think that's necessary, Esmond. Everyone here understands exactly what you said.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And on to a more pleasant note. Veronica Tortosa is sitting in the back of this room. Everyone meet Veronica, say hi. Veronica is a resident who came to me some months ago, wanted to meet with me, and then she said, you wonder what it's all going to be about. She says, I want to do something for the village. I want to make a video for the village, and I do good work. And if you think I'm a person who promote myself, you should see Ms. Tortosa, because she said, I do good work, Esmond, and I want to do something for the village. So I said, okay, we'll work on a project together, because guess what? It's free, zero, cost zero. So that's nice, we work with that. But then I know the mayor, who's on the board, was charged with coming up with a video for the legal cities. And they advised us very late, Mayor, right? Maybe about a week or something like that. And so I called up Veronica. I said, Veronica, guess what? You got 3 days to do a video. And she said, no problem. I got this. And in 3 days, it was produced. It was a 30-minute piece that we sent to the League of Cities. They will be cutting and splicing it. I don't know why.
Now,
30
right?
seconds. 30 seconds. Yeah, 30 seconds. I know they'll be cutting and splicing it, but I'll tell you something. After we gave it to them, I looked at the other presentations that were given by the other cities. Yeah, they don't compare. You told me. Yeah. So at this point in time, I'd just like to show you this. It's a quick work by Veronica. Oh, there's no music in it because they didn't want music. That's all I'm sure. So I just want to thank you, Veronica, for all of that, and can't look forward to the longer version with music.
I want to make a longer version. I want to narrate it a little bit and do something more like for everything.
I'm sorry, Madam Clerk is saying you should say this at the podium, so it's recorded.
So those that are watching live stream can hear you, and it's in the recording.
I can do that. I didn't come prepared, but I can talk.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
Yeah. Thank you. Nice to meet you all. So yeah, I was planning to make a longer version of the video. That was the first plan, because I want to showcase the beauty of Miami Shores. So I'm very proud of the village and the area where I live, and that's the start of something I want to do for other cities, but I want to start in my own home. And I'm thinking, you know, I'm having brainstorming in my own office, and I'm thinking about something narrated that tells different stories, and maybe it's not going to be just one video, because there are many stories here. So, and everybody can use it, because I'm gonna put it in my channel, and which I use for real estate and listings. And I'm gonna showcase the city, so any realtors can use it to show for their listings too. Okay?
And just one thing, and the cost of the village is?
The video?
Yeah.
No cost.
There you go.
Thank you, thank you. Well,
Thank
it's
you.
better than that one, because I couldn't put some music on that one, and you know, like the engagement for the video. But it was good. It was
Thank you.
made in 3 days.
Is that it?
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, time for public comment.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bob Smith. I live in the historic home at 230 Northeast 94th Street. And it's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. The reason why I'm talking is because I recently learned about the restoration of the country club, or whatever's going to happen to it. But I also saw the name of an old person that I used to know in business by the name of Richard J. Heisenbottle and his company. And I just wanted to tell you that he's a good man. There is nobody else in the state of Florida that I would trust to do a restoration project of that. I don't know if he'll get the bid or not, but I just felt the need to give an amicus brief to you all. Just to give a little of my bona fides, I am past member of the Village Code Enforcement Board, twice served as chairman, former chairman of Miami-Dade Historic Preservation Board, and secretary of Dade Heritage Trust. I'm currently an at-large member of the City of Opelika Historic and Environmental Preservation Board. So for what that's worth, I'm also a 30-year resident of Miami Shores. And I just want to let you all know how I felt, and I wish you good luck, and I know that you will act in the village's best interest. Thank you.
Good evening, Maria McGinnis, 1250 Northeast 101st Street. I would like to speak on item 10A of the ordinance that's proposed for alternates to the Planning and Zoning Board. I don't think it's ever come up before them. That's one issue. So I'm interested in knowing what they think of having alternates. And again, I'm not positive what the ordinance is proposing to solve. But I wanted to at least, point you to the fact that the existing code actually has language for the council and the authority of the council to be able to remove and appoint people as needed without cause, as to my understanding. I mean, the village attorney can clarify that if it's different, but my understanding is that you already have power. And I know you all know how important the zoning code is right now, specifically because it's supposed to come in to be consistent with what was already amended in the comp plan on September 11th of 2023. But we also know that the single family needs to be amended as well, and there's other areas of the code with resiliency and stormwater and drainage and pervious versus impervious. There's a whole lot of things that need to be addressed. So I urge you, I oppose the proposed ordinance because I think it's going to complicate things instead of simplify them. I also believe you've already got the power and authority to do what you need to do. If you are going to consider the ordinance that you have before you, I would suggest that you consider having a first alternate and a second alternate so that there's an order to it. and that the first alternate serves when there's one person absent and both serve when there's two, that they have no participation in any meeting where there's already 5 people present that are actually appointed board members that are voting, and that they are only limited to participate and have full authority when there's an absence of an individual. And, those are my suggestions, but I would prefer that you not grant the first reading of it, because I don't think it's going to solve the situation, and I believe you already have the authority to take care of vacancies on the Planning and Zoning Board within your power. Thank you.
Good evening. Patricia Bonaduce, 9416 Northeast 2nd Avenue, Chair of the Historic Board. I'm here to inform you amazing things are happening at the village right now. First of all, this weekend, the whole board, with a great effort, we've been working since the past 6 months, I think. We have a show display in the whole Miami Shore Village. 122 historic homes, centennial homes, have been awarded with this, has been gifted with this garden sign. So right now, the whole village is dressed as a party. And I posted today, if you're not on Facebook, try somebody who has it, all the pictures with the addresses of each of the houses. So for the record, this is going to be also archived at the library as part of our centennial celebrations. Just drive by and enjoy the 3% of the village that is our most treasure. And let's not talk about the demo now, but that's a conversation for another day. So with these events, part of these events, we have something very important. May Historic Preservation Month. We have a driving tour by one of those, 5 of those houses. Please attend the Centennial Splendor Tour. Here we have the organizer, Mr. Jeffrey Sade, as well. So we're going to be visiting the interiors of the house. So this is not only a walking tour. This is going to be visiting the interiors of the house. It's this Saturday. We're departing from the library. It will be a great support for all the things we do, celebrating our beautiful village. With all these events, I was very honored several weeks ago, and I'm here to share, and everybody can see the award Dade Heritage Trust gave me in the name of Miami Shore Village. This has been a lot of love and work, and I've done it all for you, to preserve what we have in the village and to make them love with history and architecture. That I always say it's not easy to make history fun, but we try so hard. So this is for all of you, and I'm very proud of it. And finally, I'm also here to support architect Heisenbottle, because he won the award the same night as I did. And there's no better or more knowledgeable authority in the whole Florida like architect Heisenbottle to just create something spectacular on our historic clubhouse. He can make something luxury, profitable, and as elegant as well. So thank you so very much.
Hi, Abir Jadala, 365 Northeast 93rd Street. I beg to differ, Patricia. History is a lot of fun as a history teacher. Anyway, I'm here to talk about something else, and that is traffic. I've been meaning to come to one of the meetings. You guys have had a packed agenda, and I haven't had time, and now that the school year's slowing down, I'm here. I got hit by a drunk driver on 96th, 4th Avenue, that area where all the stop signs are, if you guys know what I'm talking about. She hit me. My car was totaled. That's another reason I couldn't come, because I was in physical therapy for quite a while. And I just wanted to express how serious the traffic problem is getting in Miami Shores. She got out of her car, staggered around a little bit, and then got into her car and took off, and a guy on a bike chased her down, and we got the information that we needed. So I'm grateful, actually, that she hit me and not him, because he would have died, and he was in the path as well. Anyway, so that needs to be addressed. Those little stop signs that you guys have with the flashing light, fantastic, but it's not enough, because it's just not enough. And I see people blowing through that stop sign all the time, and I have to take it to get home. So, and I'm petrified of it now. So, you know, it's a very dangerous intersection, and I really wish that somebody would come up with a solution for that intersection. Additionally, up and down our streets, I see people, if we don't have, other streets have speed bumps, what can we do to get a speed bump on our streets? It's local traffic that's doing that, you know, and people are just flying to school, flying to work. Please, can we put speed bumps on all the streets? Because when that lady hit me, she got in her car and took off down a side street. And she was able to do that, and, you know, without any speed bumps or anything. So can we please address that issue? I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening. I'm Cindy Herbst, 1096th Street. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I'm here to address my viewpoint on 12B, which is the Bayfront Park. I'm not in support of opening up Bayfront Park with water access. I'm also not in support of the village losing control over the park. I don't feel that the area was ever meant or designed to be a kayak launch. The roads are too narrow. There's inadequate parking and drainage to handle the cars, the trucks, the trailers. Small children play in that area. Residents and non-residents walk their dogs, bike, and enjoy the view. And at night, sadly, it is where teenagers and young adults go to party. We're trying to make it into something that it's not. And let's be realistic. This is not a park. This is a lawn, right? In my opinion, the village is ill-equipped to manage something like this. Opening up Bayfront Park with the level of growth that we have seen and being planned in and around this village would be reckless. The conversation has been going on for a couple of years. It was a year ago that the council voted to look at alternatives for grant money that did not require opening up water access. I'm not really sure where we stand on that. I'm concerned that we continue to have the repeat conversations as we sit with barricades for months, sectioning off the area for safety concerns. The seawall needs to be rebuilt. Not only is this an eyesore, it is a continued reminder of the inertia that is developing between village management and council. We need to move forward and focus on fixing the seawall. How do we do that? Thank you.
Alice Birch, 1440 Northeast 101 Street. I promise I will be extremely brief. There's an officer sitting here. I wish you'd stand. I'd like to just thank you for and tell the people it was an unusual circumstance. A friend of ours passed away in his home unexpectedly. He was on the scene for over 2.5 hours helping us, and really appreciated his professionalism and his ability to explain why it was that, you know, as a really close friend and fellow caregiver, I wasn't able to go into the house right at that point. So it was a tender situation, and you handled it so well, so I really appreciate it. Okay, thank you. I have one short thing to say, and that is Senate Bill 770. Would you mind keeping an eye on that Senate bill? It should go to the governor's desk shortly. It should allow us for something that the Y-Green PACE program, which is Property Assessed Clean Energy Loan Program, has been striving for 3.5 years with the state legislature, and that is the ability to give our citizens those PACE loans. They're supposed to be low cost. There aren't any really low cost loans going on right now, but they are try to be of the lowest cost possible for people who would like to avail themselves of that kind of funding. So I'm really hoping for that. We've written letters and the governor will hopefully sign this Senate Bill 770. It's also for repairs for sewer and septic. So if you have a failing septic system, you can get a loan for that. And that's really special. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Brandon Spurk, 1200 Northeast 97th Street. I too will be brief. With regards to all of these Senate bills, particularly echoing the sentiments of Councilmember Cantor, I'm wondering if we've had any discussion about joining either the Florida League of Cities or the League of Counties in opposition to the state takeover of local control. We're hearing, as our lobbyists presented to us, Senate Bill 812 and a host of others, the Live Local Act among them, as being impediments to us moving forward, indeed potentially not being able to pass proper zoning codes and the like, such as that. So I'm wondering if we have had any conversation, any back and forth about whether or not we join some of these lawsuits. I know that the county is starting to change their tune a little bit, particularly after the state tried to take away the Miami-Dade Expressway Authority asset. So I'm wondering, to the extent that we might be able to join one of those initiatives that's already in process, would potentially give us a little bit more of a voice than we otherwise have as 11,500 residents. Thanks.
Hi, Nancy Dawson, 45 Northeast 96th Street. I just want to comment on my dear neighbor, because 2 years ago, I got up here and I said I grew up in a neighborhood in a different state several decades ago where we didn't have 6 corners. We always had the big roundabouts, and it slowed traffic. And I was poo-pooed, and I was told, oh, we don't need that. There's never any accidents over there. And I'm thinking, well, maybe there are accidents over there that people actually get hurt. But because, you know, you're just basically told as a resident that's not necessary. And I thought, well, I wonder how many other people, because we take walks late at night, and we see people just flying through there. Now they're flying a little slower because of the great, you know, little red flashing stuff, but they're flying through there, and it happens all the time. And so I just think that it doesn't take that much for Public Works to build a couple of curbs and put something in the middle that they can't fly through. So I think that it should be revisited, and we shouldn't, as residents, have to talk to like a traffic committee or something.
Any additional public comment?
You have 2 general public comments via e-comments. One is from Madeline Martinez. I would like to bring your attention to the very poor condition of the athletic fields in Miami Shores. The grounds in uneven areas, and many others are dirt bare. It is horrendous that Miami Shores would keep its fields in such unplayable conditions. It is disgraceful given the amount of money we pay in taxes. The Recreation Department should be held accountable and be forced to provide an update to rectify the condition of the fields at the next council meeting. Thank you. Next speaker is Elizabeth Wallace. I'm commenting to encourage the village to prioritize and focus resources on the transition from septic to sewer. As hurricane season and the rainy time approaches, yet another year without a municipal system in place for the handling household water waste is daunting. It is the interest of our property values, our community health, and the environmental health of our village to eliminate septic tank usage. This concludes e-comments for general comments. However, there are item-specific public e-comments. The next item on the agenda is the consent. So item B, 8B, 8C, and 8D have been pulled. So we would need a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is essentially item 8A.
Motion to approve the minutes, 8A.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item 8B, a resolution of the Village Council of Miami Shores Village, Florida, approving a contract renewal to the turf and landscape maintenance agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation, authorizing the village manager to execute an agreement related to the same, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date. This item is brought forth by the village manager.
Mayor and council, each municipalities throughout the state of Florida, especially those that have state roads running in their within their boundaries, have entered into agreements with the FDOT to have them share some of the cost of what it is that we do to beautify these areas. We've got Biscayne Boulevard, we've got 103rd, and we've got 6th Avenue. And those are the three that we have been appropriated dollars for that are supposed to somehow complement what it is that we spend in those areas. Now, it never matches because, of course, our effort is greater and other municipalities' efforts are greater than what FDOT puts into it. But the fact that they give some dollars towards what it is that we do is just to help to defer some of the costs that we have. This is what is in front of us. It's the third year of an agreement that we have with them, third and final year. Then you have to re-up. Each time that I've addressed this, in my first year that I was here, I went to them and we got some more dollars because, of course, costs are going up. And I mean, we treat these corridors special. And so this is just a third of the year. It's asking you just to approve something that has been approved for second year, and now the third year. We thought it was a slam dunk. That's why it was really on consent.
Any council comments? And so I have one then. My understanding is that this takes care of Biscayne Boulevard, which I understand. What I don't understand, unless there's something that I'm missing, is there is no median on Northeast 6th Avenue, nor is there any median on 103rd Street. And so it also says that we take care of the right-of-way. And my question is, what expenses are the village incurring on 6th Avenue and 103rd Street?
Mayor, it has to do with trees, it has to do with litter control, it has to do with anything that ordinarily the FDOT would take care of that we do take care of. So it doesn't have to have a median. It could be a tree, it could be a litter, it could be anything of that nature. If, God forbid, we've got to go out there and sweep it, if it's even for a year. I mean, it's even on a once, twice, 3 times for the year, then we do it. FDOT is essentially saying, you do it because I won't be coming out here to do it.
Well, I'm trying to get a definition of it. So, for instance, we're not responsible for maintaining the road or the gutters or the sidewalks. You told me the sidewalks were a part of the road. Then are we maintaining those also? We have sidewalks on 6th Avenue.
It's not for sidewalks, Mayor. That sidewalks, that kind of infrastructure item is not for any of those. It's for litter. It's for maybe trimming back trees. It's for just, running our sweeper truck on it. It's for maintenance of the medians. That's it, particularly as it pertains to Biscayne Boulevard. I'll tell you this much, that while we haven't done the numbers in a long time, that 24,000 or whatever it is that they give us can't even begin to address our effort on Biscayne Boulevard. Cannot.
Well, I'm sure that it doesn't. That's the whole reason for my question. In other words, I want to know what we're actually doing. We're saying trees. Are the trees in the swale then they are a part of the village, or they're a part of the state?
If they're trees that have been planted by the state, then those are state trees, and then they're now giving us those dollars to take care of that kind of maintenance that otherwise they would be doing.
Through the chair, if I may. So this sounds like a similar arrangement like with the swales on our own houses, where those aren't our trees, it's not our grass, but it's our job to take care of it. Except, I guess we're kind of like the contractors that are getting paid to take care of it.
Yeah, they're getting paid nothing to do it, essentially.
Right. But what comes along with that is we have a little bit of flexibility in making it, even though it's not our road, it's not our swale, they're compensating us a little bit to help maintain it,
Yes.
but we have the flexibility to do what we want with it, which is obviously going to be at a higher standard than what the county would be doing.
Absolutely.
So this is helping to offset those costs and still giving us the freedom to make it look like what we want over there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, we're the recipients of the Highway Beautification Grant, and we're going to be doing a design on Biscayne Boulevard, just to make sure that our area of Biscayne Boulevard is distinct, that we can know that we're in the shores. And I had said that the moment we get the okay by them, there were a few residents who had some ideas as to what we could do there. And I had said publicly that they would be invited to be a part of that process, yes. And I still say that they will be. Because I think there's too much time spent on Biscayne Boulevard by our crews to do what seems to be just an ongoing job where it doesn't even look beautiful.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my next question. I know that you've brought up in the past that you wanted to make some changes over there so that it still looks beautiful, but maybe doesn't require as much constant maintenance by our crew, which basically results in us shutting down a lane of Biscayne Boulevard when we're doing that, which
Yes.
I am hyper aware of because that's my daily route multiple times. So I appreciate that, and I'm glad for that. I'm happy to get that update. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if we didn't do this, these are state roads, then the state would come in and do this, or
Yes, and Mayor, they do it at their level of effort. So, for example, they do it at a highway maintenance of effort. So whereas we may be doing something every week, they do things like every quarter.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Need a motion.
Motion to approve the contract renewal with FDOT about the maintenance agreement that we have with them in the past.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Item 8C, a resolution of the Village Council of Miami Shores Village, Florida, adopting the village's strategic priorities, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date. This item is brought forth by the village manager.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This item, actually, there was a little error on this because the item no says it belongs to the manager, but it really didn't. There was an error there. But since it has come up, I've had the opportunity to get some calls and to be able to speak with some residents as to what the intent of this item was. The intent of this item is not to be dismissive of the strategic management plan, nor the priorities that were set forth in that strategic management plan. In fact, when I do my final resume, when I've left here, it will say that one of my proudest achievements was to be able to be a part of the strategic management plan. I think it was great. We got it, we worked with our local university. We got it done at zero cost. We were able to get citizens' input at the beginning throughout the process. 325 residents who did a survey to say what they thought were the most important things. I know that the folks who did it, Barry University, they spoke with elected officials, they spoke with other stakeholders, including the folks who own downtown, and we came together with the strategic plan. It has certain priorities, and in my chair, it has a lot of priorities, things that need to be done, and without priorities being ordered, or because we've heard, oftentimes we hear the phrase shifting priorities. Sometimes they're shifting priorities in things, not that something is being backburnered. It's not that, but sometimes you just can't juggle 20, 25 projects all at the same time. And management found out that that was happening. A retreat was called, and at the retreat, all the priorities were looked at, and not that anything was given favor, well, not that anything was disfavored, but that there was an order, there was some priority listing to say these are some items that you should make sure that you're working on, that should be top of your list that you'll be working, that you should be working on. In fact, top of the priority list that you have. If you take a look at the strategic plan, and something is wrong with my computer, I just can't get it open right now. If you look at the priorities in the strategic plan, I think all of those, is it 11 or 12 items, are being worked on right now. They're all being worked on in one way or another. In fact, I think, if I recall, the number 11 may be the wall or something like that, but every single one of those items are being worked on. So it's not like nothing is being backburnered here, but the intent was to memorialize the 5 items that were discussed during the council retreat for management to work on. It was given there. Of course, it was a retreat. No votes could be taken on anything. The voting is done here. By the way, it was a properly noticed meeting, and it was done, and thank you, Ms. Gunn. And that the intent of this was just to memorialize the 5 items. Actually, it's 6 on there because one of them is tied. 2 of them are tied. That these are the things you've been working on. But if I may, the number 1 item is revitalizing downtown. In fact, okay, the last item, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The 12th item on the list was improving our public Wi-Fi or website. That's already done. So here it is, the 12th item on the list was already completed. So we have been working on this, and we've been having different successes. Upgrading and funding the seawall is one of them that's on here. It's already being worked on. And the intent of this was just to memorialize the retreat that the council had at that session, because no vote really could be taken there. So that's all that is. It's not a matter of getting rid of the strategic management plan, which I think is a beautiful strategic management plan of which we're proud, and that's all I have to say on that. It really wasn't my item, but something was done and my name was put there. But I just wanted to chime in, and since it was pulled from the consent, just to say that. So I do appreciate you, Mr. Mayor, allowing me to speak. Thank you.
To the chair. The item that's before us, it was going to have my name attached to it, so I don't know how it got the manager's name. But it's also, we voted, or the residents voted in the past November election about transparency in the village. And after having the retreat, and it was publicly noticed, residents were encouraged not to attend it, so that it was a meeting that we could grow as a council and as staff. This item here is just, like the manager said, to memorialize it, and it also to go to what the charter says is a level of transparency. Residents did come up to me after the fact and asked me how the retreat went, and I told them, and then here's the documentation for it, and what was discussed there. So we're just supposed to vote on that as just memorialize it that we did do this, so it's in the public record.
this, I don't know, I may be misreading it. It says this is a resolution of the Village Council of Miami Shores Village adopting the village's strategic priorities. And again, I would say this, it's your money. You all are the taxpayers, and we need to have public input to decide what the village's priorities are before we pass a resolution here stating that what we have talked about at a retreat, or at least in my, I'm sorry, let me say this, in my opinion, this should be something that is being voted on or discussed, or there should be public meetings. We have a lot of things. We have the country club, we have the seawall, we have the charter school, we have septic to sewer, we have the community center. We can't do all those things. We cannot afford to do them. And so we do need a list. We do need a number one and a number two, etc., on how we are going, what we're going to attack first and what we're going to attack second. And the idea that we can do all of them at once, we can't. We don't have the money to do it. So I don't think we ought to be passing a resolution tonight stating that we have now decided what the village's priorities are, my opinion.
Through the chair, if I may. Yeah, I think, you know, there's like some nuance here. I think if the intent here is what the manager says and what Mr. Charles says, I don't have any problem with that. I think that's fantastic. If we're just being transparent, we're saying, hey, this is what came out of the meeting from, you know, the exercise we did or whatever. But I think the perception out there is that this is a list of the 5 most important things in the village according to this council, and I don't think that was the intent of the exercise that we did. I don't think that was what each of us individually were thinking was going to be the outcome of it. So I just want to be clear, because just to give everybody a little bit of perspective of this side over here, none of us are lawyers, none of us are planners, we don't design seawalls, we just make decisions, and we direct these talented people here and staff to actually do the work. So when you ask us where we're focusing on, it's our job to kind of focus on where the decisions haven't been made yet, because that means we're holding up the process on that particular item. Once we've made a decision and we're waiting for the report, or we're waiting for staff to put some product together, or whatever it may be, there's nothing for us to focus on anymore until that next step materializes, and now we move on to educating ourselves on this other super complicated issue that none of us have any background on and we have to get up to speed on and make a good decision, what's best for the village. So that is the lens that this should be viewed as, us sitting around and saying what needs our attention today. That was the exercise as I understood it. So if you were going to ask me to make a list of what are the most important things in the village, I think that's a different assignment. And I'm not saying that that's what this is, but that is the perception that's out there today. And then on top of it, we had this pre-budget workshop before this, and that adds even more confusion, because now I see people were commenting on the public comment for the budget stuff as if this was the direction for the budget, which is like now a whole nother layer of confusion. So I just want to be clear, if it were just memorializing the result of that thing and we're being transparent, I have nothing wrong with that, and saying that, yes, this is what we came up with on that day, and this is the direction we were heading in that day, and I think we're doing a fantastic job. Things are moving along. Great. I just want to be clear, because people are concerned, and I don't want to put the wrong impression out there about what this list is. That's all.
Through the chair, I think that whatever motion is made, it must be clarified that this does not in any manner supersedes the strategic plan we have already, number one. And then number two, before this retreat, we didn't have the privilege of the presentation that the Director Chris did, and realizing that all these things are already being done. So I know that we don't want to back off a course that we're already, road we're already on, but maybe this is a mute item that just doesn't need to happen. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
I've got a few comments. To thank Councilman Charles, who helped organize this retreat. There was a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of good things that came out of this exercise to be able to work together, utilize the space with our staff. And it was definitely helpful for me individually to get to know the system, the process, and my fellow council members a little bit better. Second, I would like to walk back my earlier comment a little bit on the 2022 strategic plan. I got a little ahead of myself. I believe that the majority of the 2022 strategic plan has a plethora of amazing work that went into it and is done in it. I was just pointing out that there are a couple small items and sections that when I read them, I felt like I could tell who proffered those individual items, and it didn't particularly give me a good feeling. That being said, memorialization or not, I'm going to bring it up because this is part of it. Since the publishing of the agenda this week, I have gotten outreach from more than 24 residents, and understandably, because of the perception was, on what we were doing in the pre-budget and this and that was a little bit confusing, but they all related to the same exact item. And one of the items that was left out of the short list that seems to be part of 8C. And I just want to make comments for the public record because I told these residents I would bring it up tonight. We talk often about the community and what's a gem in the community and what we look to attract new, excellent residents to the community. And one of those things we've repeatedly talked about is the golf course and how it is one of our gems. And I agree, like Jesse, I'm not a golfer, but I do believe it is one of our gems and one of the things we need to take a look at, obviously. But that being said, the community center is another item that should be viewed as a gem for our community. And listen, if you're an older resident whose children have already passed through, most likely you were the benefit of a community center that was more vital at a younger part in its history. And a lot of the younger parents, we are transitioning into a younger community. A lot of younger people are moving here. Yes, of course, we need to respect the people who have been here and the history and make sure we are doing things the proper way. But the community center needs to be also addressed and prioritized. And we can't do everything, of course, but listen, that is one of our gems in this community. I mean, I go play tennis there every other Wednesday. I love the community center, but compared to other municipalities, we are not towing the line. And I think that it's important, especially since, like I said, over 24 residents reached out specifically about this item. They want to see something done. I know the Parks and Rec plan for next year is in the budget, and we're moving, and that's an important part to moving it, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there that we all need to get on board with doing something in that arena. Like I said, whether you're an older resident whose kids are gone, or whether you're a new resident just starting a family, or you're a resident who hasn't started a family here yet. But I'm throwing it out there. It's very important, and I would like to see further discussion of it in upcoming meetings and how we're going to get to a solution for that particular item. Thank you.
Through the chair, if I may. I just want to point out too, because yes, I got some feedback also where it almost felt like people were thinking there was some kind of conspiracy to remove the rec center as a priority, and nothing could be further from the truth. I don't know of anybody who's against a new rec center at the moment. I think we all understand it's a very big priority, especially with the influx of more young families than ever here. And I just want to be clear that at the time that we had this retreat, I'm almost positive that the Parks and Recreation plan was already in the works. I think we were putting it out for Mr. Manager. Can you? It was, right? Okay. When we had this retreat, where were we at in the Parks Master Plan process? We had put that out. We had already decided that we wanted to do it, and it was being put out for.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's where we were at with the Parks and Recreation. At the time that we had this retreat, the golf course was a new thing on the radar. We had not hired any consultants yet. We had not put out any requests for consultants or any of that kind of thing yet. So that's kind of the nuance there that I want everybody to understand when we're putting together a list like this is on that particular day, the Parks and Recreation plan was already in the works. And I just feel like a lot of people saw a golf course on there, didn't see the rec center, and felt like, this got elevated and that got bumped down. And that's not the case at all. If anything, I see that as something that, we have very few sources of revenue here, and all this nice stuff that we want is got to get paid for somehow, as the mayor said. So one of my big focuses going forward here is going to be how do we maximize revenue? How do we take the most advantage of the resources and assets that we have? And that's one of them.
So we've got on here the stormwater master plan is more important than the community center. The strategic plan matrix and timeline is more important. I would like to if Sandra, if you'd make that a motion, I would second that. I just don't want us passing a resolution saying that this list here is our priorities for strategic plan for this village. This is not at least they're not mine. Maybe if I'm in the minority, that's fine. But
I think we should withdraw it.
All right. Is that a motion?
That's my motion
I'll
to
second
withdraw
that.
it.
Any further discussion on that?
Me and the mayor agreed on something.
No, to the chair. I mean, again, I think what's
go ahead.
missing from all of this is that management, not the elected officials, management needs direction from a council and the residents on what they are working on moving forward. And to sit there and say these ones that you just listed off aren't important for today and tomorrow for the managers or public works is wrong. For this thing, for a resolution right now, these are the most important things right now. Then you have another council and it could shift. But to discount that the exercise is to give direction to the administrative staff is actually discounting this and say this should not be passed. I disagree.
Through the chair, respectfully, Councilman Jerome, I don't want to discount this. This was a great exercise, especially for this council that wasn't gelling and we were just all over the place. So it was needed, and you pretty much answered a need that we needed at the time. Probably still need. However, there's nothing on here new. We were trying to prioritize things, and I don't think that this is prioritized as in 1, 2, 3, 4. It was just the top 5 things that we use pretty much as a team building exercise, for lack of a better word. And all of these things are in some degree already happening. So when I say to withdraw it, I don't mean to negate the importance of it. I'm just negating the need for it. But for this written document and the confusion around it, if such a benign document like this is creating such conversation and confusion, do we want it on a record?
Through the chair, if I may. I don't want to discount it either. I don't want to discount these as priorities, and I don't want to discount the retreat itself. I thought it was fantastic, and again, I will thank Mr. Charles for that. That was awesome. But even with these, the exercise when we were putting dots up, like I didn't know that this was going to result from that. Otherwise, I would have expected an opportunity to persuade my colleagues about where they were putting their dots, or to, challenge them on why they're putting their dot there. And I would have expected them to say, hey, you know, this is going to be a final document. Are you sure that's where you want that dot? Let me, you know, like, this was just throwing dots on the wall. And I thought that was very useful. I thought it, but I think we're getting a different product out of it now that I would revise this as it is even, because like we have, one is a master, like we have one is a master plan and one is just the sewer in general. Like it's a little, I would like to just even like clean it up a little bit if this was something we were going to approve. So I don't think this is ready for prime time as a
Mr.
list
Mayor?
of priorities. Yeah.
Public comments.
Is there any public comment on this issue?
I'm Tony McCormick, 353 Grand Concourse. When Councilman Harris, Council Lady Harris, and Mayor George Birch agree, we should all vote for them. Thanks.
Any further council discussion?
We do have some e-comments, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Give me a second, let me stop this. From Stephanie Daniel, I'm an MSV resident living at 273 Northwest 91st Street. I applaud the Village Council for selecting priorities. However, I am disappointed that the sixth priority on the community center is no longer on the list. We need to make meaningful progress on our community center and park improvement, which is going to be a process and it needs to be prioritized and started in 2024. I strongly encourage Village Council to add back the previously shared sixth priority of the community center. This concludes e-comments. Through the chair to the attorney, I have a procedural question. Is it appropriate for council members who did not sponsor the item to withdraw an item?
It's not even, it's not, the motion is not proper. It's not a motion to withdraw. So that's not really the question here. It would just really be a motion to, it really at this point would be a motion to approve, deny, defer, but
Okay,
you're
deny.
not, yeah, that's the
Okay,
problem.
that's fine. A motion to deny.
The motion to deny, I'll second that. Any further council discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Item 8D, a resolution of the Village Council of Miami Shores Village, Florida, approving the ranking of respondents established by the Auditor Selection Committee for request for proposal 2024-02-01, independent external auditing services, authorizing the village manager to negotiate and execute a 3-year agreement with 2 one-year renewals with the top-ranked firm, Markham LLP, and if negotiations are unsuccessful, to negotiate with Caballero, Firmin, Llerena, and Garcia LLP as a second-ranked proposer. This item is brought forth by the Finance Director through the Village Manager.
Thank you, through the chair. RFP number 2024-0201 for independent external auditing services is being brought to you today because we did an RFP and we selected a company to do our auditing services, and that company is Markham LLP. For several years, we've used the firm of Caballero, Firmin, and it's sometimes best practices, more often than not best practices, for you to look at how your auditing is being done, to do your proper due diligence with your auditing firm and with those services, and to put it out to bid. And we did that, and we had 2 companies that responded to that RFP, and Markham was chosen. I want to thank the council who selected Councilmember Harris to be on that committee. Also, we had 2 CFOs from different municipalities who sat on that committee. So no one from within this village on I mean, with the exception of Councilmember Harris, sat on that committee, looked at what was presented, and chose. And it's been brought to you now because this company has been chosen. I think the firm of Caballero, an excellent firm, by the way, because I've worked with them elsewhere. They have been, Holly, how long have they been serving us? About 10 years. And usually that's, it's not really best practices to go 10 years without looking at your auditing services. So we did that, and another firm was chosen. And I think they're here today. Yeah, I think that firm is here today. In the event that the council wants to speak to them, that's usually, just so you know, it's kind of customary in the event that the council chooses to speak with them. I thought this was going to be another consent item, and so that's the reason. So thank you. That's what I have to say.
Good afternoon. My name is Maurice. I'm with my colleague Alex Auguste, and we're with the firm of Markham, and it's our pleasure to be of service. We submitted a proposal. Our firm has been in service in Miami-Dade County for 70 years, and all we do is service municipalities like yourself. So we have a list of references as part of the proposal. We're ready to start as soon as you like, and start the audit rather quickly. We plan to be here on site. We're a local firm, so if you have any questions, we'll take on any questions you may have.
Through the chair, I don't have a comment for the firm, but I just wanted to throw it out there that as much as the budget has come up in our council meetings, even since I've been serving, I think that a sea change for the new firm is definitely a welcome thing to have another company firm look at the audit this year, and I welcome to see what their findings are going to be, and I think that it's definitely a good thing. I hope that you all can agree with me on that.
Yeah. And through the chair, and I agree that it's healthy to have a new firm. However, I did chair the committee that selected you guys, and I read your proposal, quite impressive. My only concern wouldn't be a question, it would be a concern, which I guess Holly is going to handle that, is more the transition, especially knowing that we have a tight deadline. And in your proposal, you assured us that you were aware of that and that you could accomplish that.
Yes.
Still a concern of mine, so I just want you to know that I'm watching.
Yeah, well, we're ready to start. As soon as this is awarded, we'll provide you a list of everything that we need to start the audit.
Mhm.
So if the village is ready, we'll start as soon as the village is ready for us.
Okay.
If the village needs a little bit more time, we understand, but as soon as this meeting is over, we could provide you the list of audit requests.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the only reason I wanted to pull this, Sandra, was to get your opinion, because you're the one that was on the committee and spoke with them. So you think this is, your opinion's the only one I'm interested in.
See, we're best friends now. No,
Don't forget who threw your name in the hat either, by the way.
Oh, yeah, thank you, sir. Just
Thank you for accepting.
Thank you. Yes, these were two top-notch firms, so it didn't really come down to years of experience or anything else. It came down to money. They were a lowest bidder, and we liked the fact that we had a new audit firm looking at our books and things. But they were similarly suited. This is top-notch. Both companies were, yes.
Any other council discussion? Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Oh, please.
Well, no.
Jerome made a motion to approve.
Second.
All those
Mr.
in
Mayor?
favor signify by saying aye.
Do we need?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, just for the benefit of the public, to provide public comments.
And then
Any public comment? Okay.
Which one is
this is for the resolution to approve the auditor.
Wait.
If you want to have a public comment about it, you got 3 minutes, so.
Through the chair, if I may, Mrs. Harris, I think I don't want to bury the lead here, especially now that these guys walked outside. Do you want to say how much money we're saving?
I don't recall, but it was substantial.
It was substantial.
It wasn't just lowers better, you know,
Eh,
it's a big deal.
it was a significant amount, so I want to thank you again for that. Yes.
Thanks, Sandra.
Through the chair, we'd like to defer this item. Oh, we're not at this item yet?
No.
What item?
No.
Aren't we at 9A?
They were
Everybody-
about to.
Oh.
Right.
I apologize. I'm way ahead of my side.
Let's see the first.
I apologize.
We voted on 8D,
Well, just-
right?
No.
Not
I,
yet.
inter-
That's what I thought
I
it was
interrupted right when you were about to call
Vote.
for the vote, and then.
Had a first
So
and
if
a
you could
second.
just repeat the motion, the second, then we can get the vote.
Jerome
Motion,
made the motion.
Second.
Jesse seconded the motion. We voted, but we can do it again.
Yes,
Jerome?
just,
no, I mean, you want the words again for the public record? A motion to approve the resolution to hire the accounting firm.
Second.
I mean, auditing firm, sorry.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Item 9A, an ordinance of the Village Council of Miami Shores Village, Florida, amending the village's code of ordinances by amending Chapter 11, Historic Preservation, Section 11-2, definitions to amend certain definitions, Section 11-4, Historic Preservation Board, to clarify the powers and duties of the Historic Preservation Board regarding historic markers and certificates of recognition, and Section 11-5, classification procedure, to remove the requirement of Planning and Zoning Board review of historically designated properties, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date. This is brought forth by the Planning and Zoning Director through the Village Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Love this. I know this is the second time we're bringing this. It's a second reading, but I'm going to respectfully ask if we could defer this item until the next meeting.
Mr. Mayor, this is a public hearing, just so you know.
Okay.
There is, there's some procedures that should have been followed prior to this coming for second reading, which were not followed. And I would not want us to, we don't know what the consequences of that may be. So I'm respectfully asking you if we could just defer that until next time.
Motion to defer item 10A, is that what we're on?
Second. Do we still need public?
9A, sorry. Motion to defer 9A. I flipped the page.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not required.
Thank you.
Item 10A, an ordinance of the Village Council of Miami Shores Village, Florida, amending the village's code of ordinances by amending Chapter 19, planning to provide for alternate members on the Planning and Zoning Board when a qualifying event takes place, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for codification, providing for an effective date. This item is brought forth by the Planning and Zoning Director through the Village Manager.
Good evening, Judith Frankel, Director of Planning. This ordinance is an amendment to the Village's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 19, titled Planning. The Village Code currently lacks provisions for alternate board members to serve on the Planning and Zoning Board. As there are only 5 voting members, an issue may arise if one member is absent and a vote becomes tied 2-2. The addition of alternates who could vote in case of absence of a voting member will provide consistency in the review process. The ordinance also clarifies the duties of voting versus the alternate members. The ordinance does not state whether the alternates may participate if all 5 voting members are present. I would encourage any alternate members to also be welcome to all of the Planning and Zoning Board members, just for the consistency and their participation and staying abreast of all of the topics discussed there. One public comment that was made earlier in the evening was that this item had not yet been reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Board. That'll happen if you vote to approve. It'll happen later this month, and then they would provide a recommendation to you to take into consideration on second reading, as this is just the first reading. The ordinance does address primary and secondary alternates. So in the case where one member was absent, the primary alternate would take the place, and then if two members were absent, then you would have the primary and the secondary both voting. Village administration recommends approval of the ordinance to allow for the appointment of alternate planning and zoning board members by the village council. The appointment of alternates will assist in maintaining board continuity.
If I may, through the chair, just a few clarifications. What we're proposing to do between first and second reading is to condense the qualifying events, because as of right now, there's 3 qualifying events that would trigger whether an alternate is actually used, and that's 1, absence of a voting member, 2, vacancy in the seat of a voting member, or 3, recusal of a voting member due to voting conflicts where recusal results in a loss of quorum. And so essentially the goal of this ordinance is to ensure that there is a 5-person membership at all times. So the portion where it refers to a loss of quorum, that would be stricken, and it would just be absence or recusal. So at any point, if there's less than a 5-body membership, the alternate would be tapped. And I know it was also brought forth in regards to having a primary versus a secondary. That language is already included in this ordinance. In addition to that, it's clarified that alternate members shall not vote on any matters unless they are sitting to fill the position as a voting member. So voting is not something that is brought up. And in regards to the review from the Planning and Zoning Board, this is, let me see, Chapter 19. So it's not a requirement that it goes before the Planning and Zoning Board. If it's the will of this body, then it can go before the Planning and Zoning Board. But as always, I caution when it comes down to those type of things, because it would leave you in a position where just your normal legislative acts, I don't want there to be an expectation that it automatically has to. So there's nothing that has been improper procedurally. It still is, that would just be discretionary if you so choose to. But I believe the anticipation is to take it to second reading at the next meeting. But this does not change any structure to how the Planning and Zoning Board currently operates. What it does is allow a little bit more flexibility. Another clarification, because I'm sure you might have some questions about it, the current membership of the Planning and Zoning Board, one member at one point had not submitted a resignation, and so this ordinance was a little reactive in the sense of trying to just make sure that for the future we always have alternate memberships available. However, that member has resigned from the board. It has already been advertised for a board position to be filled, but nonetheless, this is still something that some municipalities, most municipalities use for that purpose of having an alternate in case, to just ensure that you have a full body. And I think we've seen just in the last couple of meetings where we have seen some 2-2 votes. And so the point is to try to avoid that in the future. So that is just a little bit more information before you guys proceed with discussion.
Any council comments?
Well, I would like to say that, and I would just like to get the feedback of the rest of the council on this. I think the third criteria, if a member needs to absolve himself for conflict of interest, I'd like to keep that in there because, like Shanae just said, I don't want any more of these 2-2 votes. I think that having that odd person is important, and maybe I misunderstood you, but I thought only the first 2 criteria were.
Yeah, I'll just clarify. So it's not to necessarily get rid of 3. It's just going to combine 1 and 3 together and to not account for quorum. So we're not attaching it to quorum. We're just saying absence or recusal. So that way, in an event that I would try to explain it and how it would play out so you can maybe click at that point. So if recusal, say we have a 5-member board and everybody's there, one person recuses themselves, technically we still have quorum. So we would not be tapping any of the primary, any of the individuals if as written right now, because we would technically still have quorum. If we change it to allow for absence or recusal, the second somebody is absent or they recuse, now we have 4, we can tap that primary or that secondary. So what it's doing is just broadening it up a little bit, opposed, so that way it's not attached to a quorum requirement, because that wouldn't solve our issue of trying to maintain a 5 board membership at all times. That's the goal. Will that always be the case? Who knows? Maybe your 2 alternates are unavailable that night. I don't know. But the goal is to try to maintain a 5 board membership at all times. But I guess, for lack of better words, your concern is addressed with the proposed amendment. You won't have an issue with that.
Well, would there,
Go ahead.
through the chair, would there be an appetite that the alternate person, in terms of recusals, only vote if there's a tie? Not just step in just because someone recused themselves? Because you're only going to step in for that one item, then go back out? Is that how this is going to play out?
So, truthfully, and I can't speak for any time prior to me being here, but we haven't had a situation where a board member recuses themselves. We've had situations where board members have been absent, and I think that is likely how this is going to play out. The recusal part probably, I mean, I never say never.
If it's important enough to put it in a procedure,
Right.
I think it should reflect a possible reality. So, okay.
And usually recusal is going to be, if you need to recuse ahead of time. So the idea would be that we would already have planned and made accommodations that when that particular item comes up, that primary would step in to fulfill that role, and then they would.
Yeah, I understand that. I just
Oh.
think it's kind of sloppy, like, well, I leave, somebody else come in, then they leave, and I come back, when they only need it if it was like, that they need to break the tie or something. If it ends up 2-2.
I think that's more complicated, and
Okay.
I do.
I like to complicate things.
To the chair. The question I also have is, are the alternates held to the same standard then as the appointed? Meaning that if you just said that one's alternate 1, alternate 2, well then what is attendance then?
What?
Well, one of the things for our board is lack of attendance. So now you have 2 alternates. What are the rules then for the alternates? Like, is it held to the same thing? You miss 3 meetings, you're gone?
Right. So there's language in here that says that they would adhere to all other rules. And so in terms of terms and term limit, all of that would be the same thing, same applicability in that case.
Through the chair, if I may. Yeah, I'm a little concerned about how this is actually going to play out. So we're expecting the alternate to attend all the meetings.
That is something for your consideration.
So
As drafted, it is silent, but that is to be discussed.
I'm conflicted on that because I think it's a lot to ask somebody to commit to sitting in the audience of every one of these meetings on the hopes that they're gonna have to fill in on the seat.
Well, you do it in the jury.
I mean, on the other end of that, it's like, okay, do we want to have a system where, if somebody's not going to show up, or if they have to know that they're going to have to recuse themselves, that they're going to give a heads up to the alternate, and make sure that they're going to be, and confirm that they're going to be there? Are we putting that on the responsibility of the member who is not showing up? And then you have another problem of that alternative is now just showing up for that one meeting. Maybe they don't have as much experience, or not following things, they don't have the background.
Well, let me give you a different idea, Jesse.
Please.
I am going to go 180 degrees as usual the other way. I think we should allow these alternates to come to every meeting
do
I
too.
think we should allow them to be a part of the discussion. I just think they should not be allowed to vote until they get, because what I have seen, especially, look at what we're facing. We're facing it all, rewriting all of these codes in addition to doing, the trouble with the home thing right now with the sugar cubes is you've got to have a basis of understanding of what has been done in the past and what is being done now in order to make, you can't just pull a guy in off the street and say you need to vote on this. This committee is an important committee. Those people need to be educated, and the only way they're going to get educated is to go to those meetings and listen to them. And if they sit there and they why are they, you know, if we appoint the right people, why are they not qualified to talk? Just don't let them vote unless a situation arises where then they're you know, they're supposed to vote.
I think we're sharing a lot of the same concerns, yeah.
I'm not sure if, well, I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, except, with the exception, I'm not sure how I feel about the discussion part. Because now you have a board of, 7 people, and sometimes in here, the decorum is just off. Too many people talking. We have this extended board here, and it gets kind of confusing. But that's not a firm, I'm not in favor of that. I'm just, I have to get warmed up to that, so continue.
Through the chair, if I may, maybe we should step back a minute and think about what the problem was that we were trying to solve. Is it still a problem? Is this even the
No.
best way to solve
Yes.
No,
I like
As part of your boards and committees administrator, it's a problem that it's always existed. It's just it's never been to the extent where you're facing now challenges with the public speaking against the lack of hefty language in your zoning code to protect the harmonious requirement that's stated within the code. It's a challenge that other quasi-judicial boards have, like Code Enforcement Board, where right now they've only been operating with a 6-member board, and they're a 7-member board for over 2 months. And they do have challenges with achieving quorum as a 7-member body. And so if that was even extended beyond planning and zoning to other quasi-judicial boards, there could be some benefits to having that alternate member.
Through the chair. Well, why not entertain a 7-member board? I like the concept of having additional people, so we always have a pool of, trained people available, because this board does take a little bit of knowledge and experience. So the overlap in the training, I think that's very beneficial to us. How it looks is one thing, but I am definitely in favor of the concept.
So through the chair, with that 7-member body challenge that the Code Enforcement Board has is that the more members you have in a body, the more members you would need to achieve quorum. So we're now with planning and zoning, they only need 3. If you extended that to 7, they would need 4. So.
Well, no, but we don't have 7 voting members. We have 5 voting members, but 7 members. And so we haven't changed the voting thing, but we all look at what we're facing right now, the codes we're going to have to write, the argument we have with the residents as far as the private homes and knocking these down and building the sugar cubes. And yet we just went 4 months with 4 people on this board because the one gentleman was ill and in the hospital and couldn't come. And this is those 2 particular boards that are quasi-judicial, we need to have a full complement of people there to address these, or I think we do anyway.
Are you suggesting that for this one then? We need 2 alternate council members? I mean, to me, it's totally reactionary. We're doing an ordinance in reaction to a thing that's happening right now. And to find 2 qualified volunteers that you're talking to alternate 1 and alternate 2, then even them getting up to speed for what's been happening, and also for staff to sit there and prepare 2 more documents, get those 2 alternates up to speed for what's on each week. I understand both sides of it. I understand that we're reacting to something that's transpired and how much renovation is being done and how much development's done in this village, but just doing this on first reading with this writing, again, you always go, where the resident input? Where is public comment on this? Where's that the residents even know that this is something that's being brought up? I mean, if we're going to do this, and then even on the recruitment, I just would like more public participation on this and see how they feel about it.
Through the chair, we're the elected body here, and every decision we make will not have extensive public comment. However, this was a publicly noticed agenda and item that everyone was offered an opportunity to come if they wished to. And then they spoke when they elected you also. So they just have to sometimes just trust that, oh, we're going to do what we think is the right thing, which I think we do as a team. We do. And I do have an appetite for the idea, and I think our planning director alluded to the fact that this is like best practices other places. And, some.
Other places aren't here.
What do you mean, aren't Miami Shores?
Yeah.
Through the chair.
I just think, I mean, it for me and all the boards that we have, just to find qualified people for each one of these, and then you're asking for 2 more, and then put that in place for this village, to me, it's a wish thing.
Well, I agree. Through the chair, I agree that you're correct, Councilman, that I don't know if this is going to happen in reality, because we barely could fill the vacancies that we have. However, that's just,
Now you're getting 2 more.
Well, but if we can't fill them, then we just won't have them.
Through the chair, if I may, that's my concern. Like, these are people who already have the weight of the responsibility of making these votes on them, and they don't always show up. So to have people who were just saying you're on standby and expecting that they're going to show up every time, I'm not sure how it's going to play out in real life. I think it sounds like a great idea. I'm just worried about how it's going to play out in reality.
I mean, I don't know if you're receiving these comments, maybe you're not, from various residents here as far as their concerns with the type of building that's been going on. 100%. I am receiving those comments. And to say right now that we don't have people who would be interested in being on the Planning and Zoning Board, I promise you, you'll have no trouble filling these 2 positions. Now, 2 years from now or 5 years from now, maybe that'll be different. But I promise you right now, you won't have any trouble filling these 2 positions. All right, any other discussion?
Isabella, how many applicants do we currently have for the vacant seat?
Just 1.
That's all you get it. I would like to move this item.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, public
Public
comments. Okay. We have somebody from planning sitting there.
I'm Tony McCormick, 353 Grand Concourse, and I'm usually good for a public comment. I think it's a good idea, because right now, you're at a critical point in Miami Shores where having the planning and zoning with the ability to vote and pass something, it's critical, and it may be reactionary, but we have to react to our circumstances. Otherwise, this town is going to be filled with historical buildings getting plowed down and people building huge sugar cubes with the minimum setback. And so it's going to happen. And I don't know, today they're saying they're single family houses, but if you don't have that code enforcement, that planning and zoning written right, they're going to be Airbnbs or hotels or rentals.
I'm going to use a roundabout way of asking a question. I wonder if we would be interested in a report from either or both Shanae and our new planning and zoning director about what their experiences is in how this works in other cities, and maybe which one, and some examples of that.
Is that, no more public comments?
Mr. Connie is over there? Garcia? He's on planning and zoning. Just your opinion. You don't have to represent the board. You're only representing yourself.
Resident.
Yeah, a resident.
My opinion is that in terms of the alternate, it would have to be somebody that was there more than just every other day, or I mean every other meeting. If you're not familiar with parts of this zoning and planning, the things that go on, you're lost. It takes you a while to get up to speed. Even if you're in the industry, it still takes you a while to get up to speed to what's going on in the village itself. So if there is an alternate, a primary, I would suggest that it would be somebody that's there all the time, not when a vote is needed. That's my take on that.
And through the chair, I know we don't speak back and forth to the audience. However, I called him up, so I would like to ask him your opinion on them being active in the conversations with the board, not voting, but speaking and on the issues.
Active in the conversations is going to lengthen the process.
Okay.
I think it's important that they're there, not necessarily voice their opinions at that time.
Okay. All right.
Them being active in the conversation is going to severely lengthen the process.
Okay. Thank you.
Through the chair, if I may, I just want to be clear that I think this is very important. I'm not saying that this isn't a problem. I was just saying that I want to make sure that this is a solution to the problem. And I'm still conflicted about, I appreciate your service, and thank you so much for that information, because I'm conflicted about, I think there has to be something for this person to do other than just come and show up. Otherwise, I'm nervous about whether or not they're going to actually show up. So, but then I agree also, like, what is the point of having this person speak and be involved in the conversation if they're not voting? Really, they're just lengthening the meeting. Maybe we could have some, special chairs for them off to the side, so they feel special,
yes.
And have a front row seat, or something. Maybe that's a solution, but okay. I'm warming up to the idea. I think we're getting close here. So.
To the chair, I have a question for the village attorney. On cases that come before, it's not only just the first reading and then it's quasi-judicial. Does it make it more difficult for even the applicant? They go in front, there's recommendations from the sitting one without the alternate, and then the second time they're coming there, now they're the alternate, they didn't hear it or any of the discussions, and then they get to vote on it. I understand we're trying to fill empty seats, but it just also seems how this village is and how it's been going, that it could just confuse stuff even more.
I'm trying to think of an example for you where there really would be a second time around, based on your processes. Like, a quasi-judicial typically it is site specific, right? So that's site plan, variances, special exceptions. None of them, based on your code, requires more than one review. Okay. So I don't think that would really be an issue. I'm delicate with my words, but the current history right now with the Planning and Zoning Board has been to defer a lot of items. So I think what you might be referring to is seeing it a second time from a deferral standpoint. That I don't think that won't have any bearing on the applicant or any rights within the quasi judicial matter,
Right.
because we've had instances already where we'll have four members of present at one time an item is heard, and then at another time that now there's 5. So it would be the same type of scenario even with just a 5 membership board. But there's no concerns as far as that issue. It really, at this point, it just boils down to a policy decision as to whether or not this body feels as though it's appropriate or best for the village to implement something like this. At least in other municipalities that still operate. I have various municipalities, some where, again, like I've told you, don't have a planning and zoning board at all. The village council is the local planning agency for the purposes of checking off the statutory requirement, but there's no planning and zoning board. Others where they have one and they just operate with no alternates. Others who have alternate memberships. Some may say to come to the meetings, but those alternates don't come. And it's rarely like an issue. So it varies. It really just varies in terms of the particular municipality and the group of people in that village and how active they are. And whatnot. So ultimately, it's really a policy decision. And I just want you to be aware that even if you decide to implement this, you can reverse it. It's not something that once we do it, you can't unring the bell. You can. And that's the authority you have as a legislative body. So that's very much so possible.
Carmen Rennick, 1579 Northeast 104th Street. I would just like to bring up the situation that happened with the family that lives across from the golf course that wanted the fence, that there were 5 members and they were told to come back with revised plans and this and that. And then when they spent the money and the time to come back with the revised plans, the person that had instructed them to do that wasn't there, and it ended up being a split vote. So I thought that that was really unfair to them. It was a situation that you guys did discuss, but I just thought that that was kind of an awkward situation.
Mr. Mayor, public comment closed.
Any other public comment? Any council comment?
Through the chair, if I may, just want to verify with the attorney. If we do move forward with this, you mentioned a change. Do I have to include that in the motion?
Yeah, you can. Motion as amended.
I move to approve with the attorney's suggested amendments. Is that?
Could you restate the change?
So we're going to strike number 3 and add under 1 to say absence or recusal of a voting member.
I'll second that.
Strike number 3.
And amend number 1 to add recusal. So I'm combining 1 and 3.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Seconded.
Motion carries.
Item 11A, a resolution of the Village Council of Miami Shores Village, Florida, waiving the competitive bid process pursuant to Resolution 1124-07, Section 1, Sub 6, authorizing the village manager to enter into an agreement with Coastal Risk Consulting LLC in an amount not to exceed $64,000. This item is brought forth by the village manager.
Mr. Mayor, I'll just ask our grants manager to introduce us, Ms. Keeley.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Elizabeth Keeley, Grants Manager for Miami Shores Village, and through the chair. Tonight we have before you a request to waive the bid process because Coastal Risk Consulting was the company that did the first vulnerability study in 2018 for Miami Shores Village. And in order to defer some of the costs for having to create all the data again, we went to Coastal Risk after receiving a grant from the state, and they've returned a proposal for $64,000 to update our current vulnerability study, which is required by state statute. And we have, Mr. Christian and Mr. Slapp here from Coastal Risk Consulting. If you'd like them to speak, they're available for any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Village Manager, members of council, I'm Albert Slapp. I'm the president of Coastal Risk Consulting. We're up in Boca Raton. This is my CFO, Rajiv Krishnan. And we did the vulnerability and a bit of adaptation study back in 2018. And as a result of that, it's sort of like the basis or a platform for you getting grants. And you did get a grant subsequent. I think it was for 1.9 million, but that with COVID and everything else has been delayed. But it uses the science of the flooding and sea level rise and climate change, both storm surge and heavy rainfall and groundwater and all these different things. And then our scientists map that out, and you get that product. And then with that product, you can, we explain things we have several public meetings, get input. We kind of know where some of the problem areas, but we learn more. And a lot has happened since 2018. So there's a lot more data from your side that also informs the process that we go through to provide this basis for state grants, federal grants, and your own decision-making process of where you're going to spend money to make Miami Shores a safer and more resilient place to live. And that's our goal, and that's your goal, and we're just trying to give you the updated science. And a lot of the models have changed, the requirements of the state have changed since 2018, and so we'll be doing this according to the new standards that the state has set.
Questions from the council?
I have a question. Well, I would like for Ms. Healy to repeat. You said this was a state requirement to update this? And what frequency?
Okay.
I think you said
So
it.
Florida state statutes were recently updated, I believe it was last year. And it is a requirement under statute that we update our vulnerability study because we have a 30-year study and they want you to include a 50-year study as well.
Okay, 50 years is what I missed.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Motion.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question, if you don't mind? Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask, because we have had this discussion before, and I know we have gone back and forth. Is your study, the study you've done, does that supplant a septic to sewer master plan?
No, this is, it's a very narrow study. It's not stormwater master plan, and it's not septic to sewer. Those are two separate things. This is, according to the statute that Liz was referring to, that forms the basis, once we do this, that allows you to get the state grants for perhaps those other things that are separate than what we're doing. This is a science undertaking to go through all the models once again, and to a very granular level, to streets and neighborhoods and where the canal is. We're going to cover everything.
Essentially for flooding risk from sea level rise, heavy rainfall, storm surge.
Mike.
And yes, it essentially covers flooding risk. So we'll provide maps of where the flooding will occur, to what depth, from heavy rainfall, tidal flooding, high tide, sea level rise, and storm surge from hurricanes. different categories. What would happen with the Cat 1, 2 feet, Cat 3, 5 feet, for example, you know, and which areas would be affected.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Through the chair, when would the 50-year study need to be redone?
That's what this is.
Oh, I understand. No. I understand why we're doing it.
Estimated for the future?
Right, because it's going to be 49 years old, 47, 40, whatever. So if we always have to have a 50-year plan.
I don't know the.
I'm not sure that the statute has addressed the frequency. They just
Of the
wanted us
updates.
wanted it to be updated for.
To include
this-
50 years
for
from
23,
today.
24, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions from the council? Need a motion?
Is the information in the study strictly informational, or does it provide recommendations for how to manage after you guys put the data?
Well, we're going to generally talk about that and get input from the village staff and also from the public, okay? But that's really called the adaptation piece. So for example, we're now bidding with an engineering company for Miramar, which includes both vulnerability and adaptation recommendations. This study really just opens that door a little bit, where yes, we're going to talk generally about that and get the input, but it's not a, sort of an engineering level. Whereas the last one in 2018, we did make some recommendations for streets and there, of course, obviously the septic to sewer was an issue back then as well.
Motion to approve the resolution to waive. Do we do public comment? We have to do public.
Any public comment?
Do we have any public comments?
Yeah, just a quick question, sorry. Brandon Spur, 1200 Northeast 97th Street, a little bit tangential to this, apologies. There's currently something in our zoning code that's requiring us to elevate our properties in flood zones 24 inches above base flood, so 12 inches in addition to the FEMA freeboard. I've been unable to find out where that's coming from, and it's driving our building heights up. Did that come from the 2018 study by chance? If you recall?
I don't want to misstate, but.
It's a FEMA requirement.
I'd have to go back and check on that. But to answer your question of where this is coming from, most of, let me see if I can get this correct, okay? Many of the building codes the more modern building codes are putting a freeboard requirement of 1 or 2 or even 3 feet above the base flood elevation, depending on, for example, critical facilities like hospitals and nursing homes are either being recommended by such organizations as the American Society of Civil Engineers and others to have that freeboard above the base flood elevation to give a cushion for the fact that the BFE, the base flood elevation, is based on a 1% chance of flood reaching that height every year. But as we've seen with climate change and heavier rainfall and more severe storms, that those levels are being overtopped time and time again. So Miami and other communities for new construction and renovations are requiring this additional freeboard that you're talking about. And there's also now a federal requirement. I think there's a state law too, where if you have a state-funded building, it has to be higher, there has to be freeboard above the base flood elevation. And now for federal funding, there has to be at least 2 feet of freeboard for regular buildings that have federal funds and 3 feet for critical buildings. So I hope that helps. Yeah.
Motion to approve the resolution to waive the competitive process pursuant to the resolution authorizing the village manager into an agreement with Coastal Risk Consultants.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign, motion carries.
Item 12A, discussion and
gentlemen.
possible action about the village honoring its handshake agreement with Miami Shores Presbyterian Church on maintaining the parking lot. This item is sponsored by Mayor George Birch.
You've already read what I have written here. This is where you campaign. There's cars parked in this parking lot every single day, people that are going to the community center, etc. I'm just hoping we can get a vote from the council so that it's not open to argumentation or discussion. I don't think that Esmond's opposed to this, but I'd just like to give direction here. You know, this is awfully cheap rent. It's been 10 years since they've done anything to it. The asphalt's cracking, the bumpers need to be painted, and it needs to be striped. And the only thing that the village pays in any type of rent for the use of this is they maintain it. It was a handshake agreement before Esmond ever got here between the church and the village, and you know, it's time to do it. It needs to be done, and the church has asked for it to be done. So whatever, or else, I mean, you know, we can always pay rent to them, or we can quit using it altogether and put chains across it. But I mean, I don't think that's
Through the
best interest. And if you want me not to vote on it, that's fine. I am a member of the church, so maybe I'm not eligible. Janae, what about that? Should I recuse?
Need an alternate for.
No, it's not a conflict of interest in that because you're a member, unless there's some type of financial interest or gain you'll be having from, or some economic benefit to you. But I don't want to speak for the manager,
Please do.
About what?
but I don't think that there's any direction that's needed. We already have a draft
gonna say, yeah.
agreement. So I don't think we need direction because we're finalizing a draft agreement and we've been in discussions with the church. So
I would like, through the chair, I would like to, well, I don't engage in handshake deals, but I would like to see some sort of MOU come from the manager, which you said you're working on, but I would like it to come back to the board.
of course, but in terms of the initial direction for the wheels to be turning, there is a license agreement for the use of the parking lot that is
There
being
is?
prepared and finalized. Yes, that's being drafted by us.
Oh, you drafted it. I thought it existed.
No,
Okay.
no. There's nothing that existed. It's just going to memorialize the current agreement for an extended period of time.
Okay.
So
For the record, I'm a former member of the church also.
May I say something, Ms. Mayor? I don't know if you're asking for us to do our part in the handshake deal, or you're just saying that the handshake deal is something that's archaic. Probably that's not something we use
No,
right
no, I'm
now.
not saying it's
Or does-
archaic. I'm just saying, I don't know if you felt that you needed to have a council vote to approve it, or if you're willing just to do it, that's fine with me.
Mayor, that thing is moving. Ask David Kinchin, and he'll tell you we've had several discussions. This is moving.
Good, well, then that takes
What we
care of
want
the
to do, though,
discussion.
is that because it's 2024, we want to be able to kind of formalize this process more, and just to thank the church for allowing us to even park there.
But we
We'll
do.
do our part.
And through the chair, but our intentions is to repair it, not just do a document, repair it with the document.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
fine.
okay.
Correct. So it's moving.
Okay.
Through the chair, if I may, I want to thank the mayor for bringing this up last time, and I want to thank the manager for reacting and reaching out over there and getting the wheels turning on this, and I look forward to seeing what agreement he comes back for us to look for us to look at. Getting late here.
Okay, so that's enough of that.
Item 12B, discussion and possible action regarding the proposal to reject the Florida Inland Navigation District fine grant if it requires water access in the form of a kayak canoe launch ramp or loss of village control of the property. This item is sponsored by Mayor George Birch.
Okay, so I got a lot of calls from residents again, as far as water access, and as far as being able to control what is occurring at the park. I don't know if, I know it's been discussed ad nauseum, but I was mistaken in that I thought this council had voted already to not accept this fine grant if it required water access. Now, Chris Miranda said that he has called 5 times trying to get Coley's definition of water access, and he said he won't answer him. And so the problem is that the grant has been granted, but you know, it's, I'm hoping it's the position of this council that we do not want this grant if it requires water access, because at least for the residents I talk to, that's their position. If you all want to take it, that's up to you all, but that's, we need to discuss that.
Through the chair, if I may. My understanding is that we voted on this already a long time ago, and that we said we're just fixing the wall. And that's what is being designed, that's what we approved, that's what's moving forward. Now with the fine grant, we had a little bit of drama with that. I know there was talk of a kayak ramp, and it ended up being very controversial, but the decision that we made was that we weren't going in that direction. We just wanted to fix the wall. But also, we said rather than to kind of, I don't know what the word is, but we decided to just go through the motions on the fine grant and follow it through to its conclusion, even though we didn't really have any intention of adding water access. And as Esmond explained, for whatever reason, they decided to grant us $200,000 approximately. That's sitting off to the side. And if we wanted to do something, proposing water access or whatever, it's there, but nobody is talking about that. I haven't heard anybody talk about that. I think it was a big shock to all of staff when they said, hey, here, you know, we granted you 200 grand. I don't think we have any intention of doing anything with that, to my knowledge. Honestly, the only person, since we approved that we were just fixing the wall, the only person I've heard mention anything else is the mayor, who said maybe we can add like some kind of a boardwalk or viewing platform or whatever. And as we've heard, we have not been able to get a clear answer on what water access is. But if that does qualify and we decide to move, you know, try to do something with that, we have until 2025 to try to take advantage of that money if we wanted to. And again, that doesn't involve anybody talking about kayak ramps. I haven't heard anybody bring up a kayak ramp. Or even that we are going to be taking advantage of that money. If I had to guess, it's probably going to sit there until 2025. So that's where we're at with that.
To the chair, also for the residents to know, the Florida Inland Navigation District charges or bills through taxes 30 cents per $1,000 of your of the value of your home. So this district has been collecting money for forever from Miami Shores, and Miami Shores has never executed a grant. The other, or to my knowledge, the other reasoning to add to the vice mayor's discussion is that the director right now in this district for Miami is a person. He could switch out. So when it was presented to us and that we were fixing the wall, that's the reason why the grant was applied for. It had nothing to do with the previous history of the previous administration going up to Daytona and getting that grant. It's a totally different grant, and right now, just like you said, it's just an option to use, and we haven't done anything to use it.
And through the chair, we're under no obligation to use it, period. So.
But My question is this: do you intend to use it, or are we in agreement that we are not going to take the money if fine comes back and says you must have water access? We're either going to take a position on that or we're not.
Through the chair, they are saying that if you want to use that money, it's for water access. But we are not proposed any water access. So there's no, there's nobody who, the last, where we left off with this is we approved fixing the wall and that's it. So, that's where we're at right now. We would have to have another vote to change that, and nobody is proposing any vote like that. I don't know what the people who come after us will do, but the grant won't be there by then, so.
I went back and looked at the May 6th meeting, which is when we discussed this the last time. And what we did at the May 6th meeting, there was a motion, you made it, that we should go, and Jerome seconded it, that we should apply for the grant and see if we got it or not. Well, we did get it, but the grant says there will be water access. So my question is, my question is this: are we in agreement that if, when we turn the plans in to find, that they approve them, great. But we haven't said to find, here is our plan, but it has no water access.
Through the chair, my understanding is that we have no plan whatsoever to touch a single penny of that money. And if that is how it stays, then they're just going to take that money back in 2025, and that's it. We can't touch that money without a plan that is going to explain how we're doing water access. But we're not doing that. What we voted on is to fix the wall, and that's it. That would require a totally new vote to start talking about using that money. I haven't heard anybody up here propose that. I'm certainly not proposing that. I'm fine with what we decided, which is to fix the wall, and I believe we're very far down that path already.
The clarification also, it's the director for fine is the one with water access. I don't think there's any writing in the grant that says it's water access. It's this director will not approve it, but this director could change. So, and the process to go get a grant is not a quick process. So it's like a coupon for Oreos, and you're on a diet. Are you going to use the coupon? The coupon sits there. If you get hungry and you want your Oreos, go use the coupon. I mean, that's all this is, and that's all we're saying. We're not going to use it if it doesn't fit our needs.
Right.
And none of us has said water access.
Through the chair, I just want to say, this is an option. There's an option there, and we decided to keep our options open. And part of that discussion was we didn't want to burn any bridges. We didn't want to, a lot of this stuff is at the discretion of individuals, and I think there was some sense on the council that we didn't want to kind of like thumb our nose at these people, and we would just kind of like continue the process out, even though we didn't have any intention of really doing kayak ramps or whatever. And I think, as we've said, it was a big shock when they awarded us that money, but we're not obligated to do anything with that money. In fact, we've already voted that we're not going to do anything with that money, and it would take another vote to do otherwise, and I don't think there's any appetite for that up here, so.
Mr. Chair, if the head of fine changes between now and then, and we don't need the water access, we can use the money then.
Bingo. Oh, say that again with the mic on.
Item 12C, discussion.
One second. Is that a correct statement, Shanae, or did we in fact vote that that there would be the straight wall with no water access? Was that vote ever taken?
I would have to look at the minutes to confirm, but I can't speak to that.
I've had 3 people look at the minutes, and all 3 have come to the same conclusion. We never took that vote. So, you know, I would appreciate it if you would look into that and see if in fact that vote ever occurred.
Through the chair, if I may, I think, I would like clarity on that too, because I think we're talking about two different things. I think we had a vote where we said we're moving forward with just fixing the wall and nothing else, redo the wall, and then we had another vote where we said that we're going to just go through the motions with the fine grant and not abandon it outright. And I think those are two separate things.
Well, let's look.
I could be mistaken.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
would you, previously had said that we had a timeline of all the things that, as it pertains to find. Is that something you'd want us to speak on? We did the research on the timeline as to what votes were, what was discussed at each of these meetings that had anything at all to do with find. Would you want to hear or just first to pass it out?
Well, why don't we get an answer to this question first, because if we get the,
But the answer is not going to come today, sir.
well, then we don't have to do it at this meeting.
Okay.
Let's, you know,
I have the date the vote was taken.
huh?
I have the date the vote was taken. I can tell you exactly.
Good, go ahead.
Thank you.
So at the meeting of, again, Elizabeth Keeley, Grants Manager, on June 20th, 2023, Agenda Item 10A was discussion and possible action on whether to accept the fine grant for the Bayfront Park Seawall project. It was sponsored by the mayor. That item was withdrawn, but Manager Scott provided an update on the integrity of the seawall and the necessity to restrict access to certain parts due to the deteriorating conditions. Council approved a motion to direct the village manager to proceed with the construction of the Bayfront Park seawall replacement and renegotiate the costs with Chen Moore and bring forth recommendations and findings. So that was approved at June 20th, 2023 meeting.
But that's not the question. The question
Yes.
is, did the council ever vote to not have water access?
That wasn't the question,
Ms.
sir.
Through the chair. So I did receive public records requests in response to that question. Maybe this is where that is stemming from. The public records request I received was all minutes that reflect the minutes that reflect the cancellation or the rejection, rather, of water access. And that was before Mr. Scott and Mrs. Wood's tenure with the village. That happened during Tom Benton's time, towards the end of his tenure. That was in 2022, I believe, where it was outright rejected at that moment. And then moving forward, there weren't any minutes that we found that outright ratified that particular motion that was taken in 2022. However, there are minutes that memorialize where Vice Mayor Valinsky had asked Mr. Scott, what's the status, and Mr. Scott repeating on record that right now the village is not pursuing water access. And so, but there's no official action during your time as a member of the village council or anyone up here. There's no official action. I researched that and I did not find that information.
Is exactly what I thought. So we have never made that vote, Jesse.
Through the chair, never made a vote that we're not going to do something? Like, we don't, I'm not trying to be funny, I'm serious. Like, I don't think we don't need to take a vote to say that we're not going to do something. What we did take a vote on is that we were going to fix the seawall. And that's a very specific thing. That doesn't involve kayak ramps, doesn't involve.
The people that have called me wanted, which it isn't gonna happen, the council to say that it was opposed to water access. But if you don't wanna say that, that's fine. That's fine. Next.
We have said it, though, that you're
If
not
we
listening.
don't have it, she just told you
I
that.
still
No,
haven't.
we have said it on the record. It might
But
not be in
we
the
have never
minutes. I mean,
voted on
it
it.
doesn't matter. It's
Not
just
the-
like you said. It's
Through
a
the chair,
vote for
not this
no. We
council,
keep on
prior
chasing after the
councils
same
have
thing.
rejected.
And through
The
the
Prior
kayak
councils-
ramp.
yes,
Specifically, the
the
kayak
kayak
ramp.
ramp.
That was what was voted on, was only the kayak ramp. It had nothing to do with water access.
But the
So in 2021, the previous council voted to reject the fine criteria involving the construction of a public kayak ramp. And again, there was a resolution put forth by this council on May 2nd, 2023, that The Bayfront Park Improvement Project had no consideration for a kayak ramp. It never was brought up for water access. So you're talking about two different items. And so in the past, it's always been about the kayak ramp, which has no consideration at all in the fine grant or the application that was submitted by your request to find for this one that was just awarded.
And what we were told was that he would not approve the grant if there was not water access. It wasn't a kayak ramp, it was water access. And we have never said we don't want it, and we have residents who don't want it, but that's all right. If the council doesn't want to do that, that's fine. Let's go to the next one.
Chair, I just want to point out that we still have not been told what water access is. So I can't say that I'm opposed to water access because I still haven't gotten a definition for it. I've heard the mayor bring up viewing platforms and other things.
That got voted down.
Okay, but I would be interested in stuff like that, possibly. I don't know if that qualifies as water access. Apparently to the gentleman who's in charge now, it's not. Maybe if, as Mr. Charles said in the future, if that changes, maybe it is water access and it's something that we can spend $200,000 on or whatever. That is something that is such a minute chance and that nobody is talking about. I don't think it's worth making votes on things that we are not going to do, because I just don't see a point in that. We've approved a wall that is already being designed. We've paid money for people to design it. It does not include any water access by any definition other than it's just a wall that you could see the beautiful bay from. And I don't see us undoing that or going back on that. We're very far down that road. So I think everybody should just take a deep breath. And I don't know how or why this kayak ramp keeps haunting us. But it's not really an issue. So.
And one more thing on this. North Bay Village did accept the fine grant, and they have a marina, so they have kayak launches if somebody wants to take their car and go over there. But also part to their grant, if you look at it, they have a seawall that's just a walkway, and they got fine money for the walkway. So till somebody comes up with a definition of what water access is, some people are fortunate to live on the water. Anybody that I know that drives down the public street and parks there, they have water access. Because otherwise it's private property. So till it gets defined and we haven't executed it, it's not a kayak ramp. And I don't know why this keeps on coming up, and we voted on this a year ago, so and it's a no.
Item 12C, discussion and possible action on retaining the firm of R.J. Heisenbottle as a consultant to obtain grants for the historic preservation of our golf course and country club. This item is brought forth by Mayor Birch.
Well, I think we ought to hire this guy as a consultant on this golf course project. He has access to the historic funds for the state of Florida, something he does every day. You heard tonight that he just got some award as the #1 guy in the state doing this. You know, we listened to the National Golf Association. We already lost $50,000, which he says he could have given us or gotten us to help pay for the planning for the golf course. You know, why didn't the National Golf Association say anything about that? Because, to be honest, they don't know anything about it. And so here's a guy who does know something about it. I think we ought to have Esmond negotiate with him and see if we couldn't get a deal to at least have him be a consultant on the project so that we can generate income, because he said there's $500,000, or that was his guess, as far as construction of the country club, and another $500,000 as far as construction of the golf course. My opinion.
To the chair, I think it's a little bit cart before the horse on this. I believe that we paid for the National Golf Foundation to come back with their comprehensive study of both the golf course and the country club. And then after that, then I think this council could have a discussion on what the next and best practices moving forward are. And to sit there and say the thing about we lost $50,000, the decision made for when we did it, everything for this moving forward was on a timeline that is pretty tight. There's no guarantee, just like we just got into the whole discussion about grants from the state, there's no guarantee that you're going to get it automatically. So that assumption that you throw out there that we lost out $50,000 is just an
quoting
assumption.
him.
I understand, but it's just an assumption from a private resident that's trying to get a contract with the Village of Miami Shores. Again, bringing this up now, when we haven't even gotten the report that we paid for, is again, cart before the horse. That's my opinion on it.
Through the chair, if I may, I don't know how these two entities interact. I think this gentleman sounds fantastic. I've heard nothing but good things about him. I don't know if staff has any update, but my understanding is we have not necessarily lost out on that $50,000. It might still be possible to apply for that. And I don't know where we're at in the process where this gentleman is most effective. If I don't know if we're suggesting that we should have started with him, or that we're supposed to be having him, or the suggestion is that he should be working with the consultants that we've hired, or whether the consultants that we hired should be working with him. I'm not sure how these two things are supposed to interface, or what we're proposing here. So yeah.
Through the chair, I would like to see what NGF comes back with before we entertain any discussion on this further as well.
Need a motion. Oh, sorry, go ahead. You have a report, Esmond?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm finished.
Shanae?
No report, but just wanted to bring to you all's attention. Previously, we discussed that our firm would like to discuss our current contract and amending that contract. And so usually in these scenarios in our other municipalities, what will happen is one council member would serve as just the lead liaison between our office and you all as a body. Not to say that that one person will know exactly everything that you all are thinking. Obviously, there's sunshine law requirements at place, but just one person to directly initiate that discussion with, and then we'll bring back for the full body discussion at a council meeting for a vote. So just wanted direction tonight on who that individual would be.
Through the chair, I will volunteer if.
Good.
I second Jesse.
Because I was about to nominate you myself.
Same here.
I could nominate Sandra for a job again. I would feel bad. So. Even though I know she would do a fantastic job. Oh, she gone?
Yeah.
Oh my God, she's so sneaky. All right. She must have known that there was another job to be handed out over here.
Yeah, my vote. Jesse.
Any council comments? Need a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh. Hang on, can I?
There was council comments he just asked for, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was comments on the. Okay, so I'm doing the attorney thing. All right, whatever. I just wanted to wish everybody happy Mother's Day, especially my wife, who, by the way, every time I come to these meetings, I'm leaving her with like 4 kids that are like driving her nuts. So I want to thank her and all the moms.
We're gonna go nice. You nailed that. He's already in the dance group.
Let me check. I was having issues with it. Normally I get prompts as they come in, and I wasn't getting.